So this week is Parshas Vayeitzei, and we're going to learn a mimer from Or HaTorah. So usually we learn from not usually, this whole year we haven't been doing it, come on, from Torah Or. But we finished the Maimarim in Torah Or, so we're looking for different opportunities. Okay. So this mimer is a mimer from the Tzemach Tzedek, and it's in Sefer Or HaTorah. It's really exciting mimer because it explains a passage that we say weekly, and it's beautiful to be able to get insight and appreciation of what it is that we're saying. And that is on Friday night, we begin our Shabbos meal and our Shabbos experience by singing a song relating to the angels. We greet the Aleichem. We say Shalom Aleichem, Aleichem Hasharis. And there are four stanzas, there are four parts to this song. First we greet the angels, and then after we greet them, we welcome them. We say Bayachem l'Shalom. First we greet them, Shalom Aleichem. It's a greeting. Then we invite them in. We say Bayachem l'Shalom, come. And then we say Barchuni l'Shalom. We ask them for a blessing. And finally, Tzeischem l'Shalom. We send them out before we eat. You know, so they're really not really invited to stay along too much longer. Now the angels are sent off. That's a very strange thing. What's this whole significance? We do know that it says that in the Medrash, it says that when all the Jewish people come home from shul, come home from synagogue on Friday night, we come home from shul, we're going back to our homes, we're accompanied by angels, special angels that come to accompany a Jew on Friday night. And when they come home and when they see everything in the house is prepared for Shabbos, the house has a special Shabbos elevated sense, then they bless the person. As a good angel is a bad angel. And the good angel gives a blessing, so should be to next week. And the negative angel has to concede and say Amen. If, God forbid, they come home to a house and the house doesn't have a Shabbos sense, it doesn't feel like Shabbos was welcomed into this house, so the negative angel says, so it should be next week. He likes that. A world that is unrectified, and it should continue being unrectified and incomplete. And sadly, the good angel has to say Amen. That's what it says in the Medrash. And that's the theme of this idea that we have angels coming with us. Now, it's very rare because in Judaism, even though we very, very much recognize the phenomenon and the idea that there are angels, and we have them in the Torah quite a few times, the Malachim. Next week, Parsha is going to bring Vayishlach Yaakov Malachim, that Yaakov is going to send the angels to Esav. This week's Parsha, we read about the angels going up and down the ladders. And at the end of the Parsha, Yaakov is coming back from Haran, back home, and he encounters a whole group of angels, and his angels that were with him in Haran when he was in Lavan's house, and the angels that came to greet him when he was coming back into the land of Israel all got together, became one camp. I spoke about it in the Monday class. So we have again angels. And then 2 weeks ago in the Parsha, we had the angels that come to visit Avram Avinu, and the angels that go to turn over Sodom. And 2 weeks from now, we're going to have the angel that meets Yosef when he's going to look for his brothers. They also have an angel. And then a few weeks ago, we had the angels that meets Hagar when she's kicked out of Avram's house. So really, think about it. Sefer Bereshis is full of angels. But that's about it. After Sefer Bereshis, the angels are gone. In Sefer Shemos, we don't really have angels anymore, Malach. And the reason is because once the Jewish people have the Torah and the mitzvahs, the Torah and mitzvahs are far superior than the Malachim. So the angels can't do mitzvahs. So we basically take over on the driver's seat over the Malachim. And gone are the angels. We don't really talk about them too much because we have direct connection to God and so on and so forth. But yet, Friday night, there seems to be a reconnection to the angels, to the Malach. So what is the significance suddenly that Friday night we're again busy with the Malachim? They are blessing us, but then it seems we bless them because we tell them Tzeischem l'Shalom, that's a blessing from us to them. what's this whole interaction with the malachim that are going on Friday night? Why dafka Friday night? We also know that we refer to the angels different in the different phrases. So there's different nusachs to that. I'm going to refer to the nusach hari, which the way the nusach goes is as follows. In the first stanza, we refer to the malachim, Shalom Aleichem, Malache Hashares. We call the malachim the malachim of Hashares, means the attending malachim. They are the ones who are serving. Hashares means an attendant. So these are the malachim that are attending. Malache Elyon, they're supernal angels, fine. But in the next phrase, we don't call them anymore Malache Hashares, which means the angels that are here to serve. We call them angels of peace. Vayachem l'shalom, how do we refer to them? Malache Hashalom, the angels of peace. Now, are these the same angels that we refer to him as Malache Hashares, and the very same angels are referred to as Malache Hashalom, angels of peace? Or perhaps they're different malachim, different kind of malachim. Then we say, Barchuni l'shalom, bless us to peace. Again, the next three stanzas, beginning with Bayachem, Barchuni, and Tzeizchem, all three of them, we refer to the malachim as Malache Hashalom, not Malache Hasharis. Only in the first one do we say, Shalom Aleichem, Malache Hasharis. So what's the difference? So all of this is going to become clarified in this minor. The good part about this is a very exciting minor. The bad part about it is I don't know what's flying in the minor. But let's see. We're going to learn together and see what we're going to do that. So Baruch Hashem, there is a sefer called Lilmoid Eich Lehispalel. It's a set of 6 svarim by a mashpia by the name of Rabbi Zalman Gopin. He's the first person that exposed me to Chassidus. He's a mashpia in Kfar Chabad. He's a really, really deep teacher of Chassidus. And he gave shiurim in Yerushalayim, or whatever the shiurim are. And from his teachings, they put together a set of 4, going through all the pirushim that there are in Chassidus on davening, which is very important. Chassidus talks in the Maimarim, there's so many discourses, and you'll have like different parts of davening explained in different discourses. And it's hard for someone who wants to get a full-fledged narration of davening according to Chassidus. It's hard to get that because you have to go through thousands of svarim. So he basically collected, but he's not just a collector. He's a very amazing teacher, and he took all these abstract ideas and he kind of fleshes it out and brings it down in his 4-volume set on davening. Then he gave out another 2-volume which relates to Shabbos and to the special davening of Shabbos. So when I learned this mimer, and I learned it only briefly, and I came back to prepare, I remembered in my house, the one on Shabbos, he must have an explanation on Shalom Aleichem, because he made on the whole Seder of davening. So lo and behold, I grabbed the Sefer, opened up Shalom Aleichem, and I see that he has 6 pieces on Shalom Aleichem, which are all based on Or HaTorah, this mimer. This mimer of Or HaTorah is here in Parshas Vayeitzei. What's it doing in Parshas Vayeitzei? We'll see in a minute. Why we suddenly have an explanation on Shalom Aleichem over here on Parshas Vayeitzei. But it's also in Or HaTorah Siddur HaTfilah. There's a Sefer Or HaTorah from the Mamarim and the Tzemach Tzedek on davening. There too, you have that. I think it's exact same mimer. It's just printed twice, once over here and once over there. So he had a shiurim on this. I went through it, and it's gewalt. It's really, really beautiful ideas. If I had to give a shiur not from the Sefer, we can dazzle everybody with the explanation of Shalom Aleichem, which is awesome. The problem is that when you try to see what he says over here in the Sefer, in the actual Sefer of the Tzemach Tzedek, the mimer itself, the discourse itself of the Tzemach Tzedek is extremely cryptic. What it seems like, as I mentioned already a few times, that the Tzemach Tzedek has 2 types of discourses. He has discourses that he said, and those discourses, which he said, he discussed and explained the things with far more explanation. But then there are the Maimarim of his own jottings, where he jotted down for himself, Rishimas. And those are very cryptic. Basically what you got is ayin, 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 look over here, look in Zohar over here, look in Eitz Chaim over here, look. And I have to say that from experience, people are wrong when people think, you can't learn our Torah. It's just much too. A lot of people feel that way. You can't Torah look with the Torah. These are Sfarim you can learn. Our Torah is just too complicated. First of all, there are many Maimarim at the Tzemach Tzedek spoke. Those Maimarim are very well explained. I mean, obviously, you have to have the foundations of Chassidus to learn them, but they're very well explained. But even the cryptic Maimarim, if you're not lazy and you're willing to pile up your chair with 30 books and look up every makar and read it in the source and think about it, it usually comes to light. It usually comes together. But you have to have the time and the patience to really do that. I didn't do that this time. I only did it a little bit. You see, a little bit I started plowing through the Zohars and tried to get some explanation. But I didn't do it enough. And from Rabbi Gopin's explanation on the Maimer, he basically explains the essence of the Maimer. But to be able to appreciate it in the cryptic writings of the Tzemach Tzedek is a whole new task. So let's see how it's going to go. And with Hashem's help, it's going to open up while we learn it. Now, one more thing I'm going to say. What does this have to do with Parshas Vayeitzei? Well, very simple. Parshas Vayeitzei, we have a very big encounter with angels, with the Malachim. No, Daron, you missed the whole Gishmak introduction. How do I get the people to come to the introduction? Every week I start later so I can get them into the introduction. But as I start later, start now. So what is this Maimer, which is explaining Shalom Aleichem, what does it have to do with Parshas Vayeitzei? So as I explained, in Parshas Vayeitzei, Yaakov Avinu has an encounter with Malachim. Immediately he goes out and he has angels going up and down. And we know that there are two types of angels. There are angels that accompanied Yaakov when he went to Chutz. Oh, I'll tell you a beautiful story. Beautiful story. The Holy Ruzhiner was a great Chassidic master. The Holy Ruzhiner was a brilliant child. And when he was a kid, Mamish, just 5 years old, 6 years old, he asked every kasha that Rashi asked. Every question that Rashi asks in the Chumash, the Ruzhiner would ask his teacher. Before the teacher had a chance to teach the Rashi, the Ruzhiner would ask the question. So when it came Parshas Vayeitzei, they came to the parsha and it says V'hinei malachi Aleichem, the angels oilim v'yardim boy, the angels went up and down. So Rashi explains, because right away you have a question. What's the question? Angels live in heaven. So if angels live in heaven, they should first be coming down and then go up, because where they're coming from where their source. We live on earth, so if we go up, we have to first go up and then come down. But angels who are up, they have to come down in order to go and then go back up again. The pasuk says, "Hinei malach Aleichem oilim v'yardim." So Rashi explains it's two sets of angels. The angels that Yaakov, it says in the pasuk, "Ki malachav yitzav alach," Hashem gives you malachim. Hashem will send you malachim, l'shmarcha b'chol derechecha, to guard you. So a person always has malachim, angels accompanying us to guard us. But we know that the angels that guard a person in the land of Israel, which is a holy land, are a different kind of angels than the angels that accompany a person when he's outside of the land of Israel, which is considered an impure land. Different kinds of angels. So therefore, being that at this point Yaakov was leaving the land of Israel to go work in his uncle Lavan's house for 20 years outside of Eretz Yisrael, so the malachim from Eretz Yisrael were first going up, and then the malachim who were going to go accompany him outside of the land of Israel were coming down. That's Rashi. So the Ruzhiner's teacher was teaching, and being that he knew the Ruzhiner was very quick and he always asked Rashi's question, so he made the learning much easier because the teacher didn't have to explain the question, he only had to give the answer. The Ruzhiner always had the question. So when it got to this point, the Ruzhiner's teacher slows down and he's waiting for the Ruzhiner to ask the question. But the boy doesn't ask the question. So he goes a little slower, and he says the pasuk again. That's the question. So after a while, he says, "So, Yisroel, what's going on? Nothing. no problem here. And Yisroel says, no problem. So he says, no, but nothing is bothering me. He says, no. So he says, but you usually ask Rashi's question. Is nothing bothering me. So he says what Rashi's question is. How come the Malachim are going up first and going down? So the little boy said, well, it's a dream. On a dream, you don't ask a question. Because in a dream, absurd things happen in a dream. See, it's the ability to not lose the context. You always have to see the big picture. This little boy was able to notice while he was learning it, he was very focused on the fact that this was a dream. So in the dream, all kinds of weird stuff can happen. That's what it's explained in Chassidus. The whole idea of a dream is that absurdities happen. That's why Galus is called the time of a dream, because the whole exile is absurd. That the Jewish people that are Hashem's children, so close to God, should be so suffered, so much persecuted, and such. All that we've gone through, it doesn't make any sense. The whole thing is wacky. It's because it's a dream. It's a nightmare, the exile. Al Kopanim. So what do you see from here? That Parshas Vayeitzei deals with Malachim of Eretz Yisrael and Malachim of Chutz Li'aretz, different types of angels here and there. And so in this Maimer, we're going to learn about the Malachim. And we're going to see in the Maimer that there are weekday Malachim and there are Shabbos Malachim. Even though he doesn't say it openly, but it makes sense that the weekday Malachim are the Malachim of Chutz Li'aretz, outside of Eretz Yisrael. And the Shabbos Malachim, different kinds of angels. And the Shabbos Malachim are the Malachim that are Eretz Yisrael Malachim. Because on Shabbos we're all elevated to Eretz Yisrael. Even if we're not in Eretz Yisrael, we're all elevated to the holiness of Eretz Yisrael. And that will explain, you can already see the beginning of the answer, how come we refer to Malachim with two names. In the first stanza we refer to them as Malachei Hashares, and afterwards we just refer to them as Malachei Hashalom, because we're talking about two different types of Malachim, stemming from two different levels. And particularly, this whole idea that Yaakov leaves his home, in Yitzchak's home, Yitzchak and Rivka's home, and he's going out to Haran and to work for Lavan, is really the Jew leaving the beautiful spiritual, the spiritual oasis of Shabbos and entering into the world that's full of turmoil, full of darkness, and full of unholiness, and full of challenge. And that's the concept of Yaakov leaving, because Yaakov, from where does he leave? Be'er Sheva. Sheva is referring to Shabbos. So it's the Jew leaving Shabbos and going into the week. And he's going to have special assistance with the Malachim. But when he comes back home, what does Yaakov Avinu say? Yaakov has a prayer. And after he has the dream, he has a prayer. And what's his prayer? He asks if Hashem is going to be with me. So, V'shafti b'shalom el beis avi. All he wants. He knows he's going through a very challenging period. He's begging Hashem that he should be able to return b'shalom in peace. El beis avi, to my father's house. That's the Jew requesting on Motzei Shabbos, Hashem, I'm frightened. It says that on Motzei Shabbos, there's a special zemer, a special song that we say, Al tira avdi Yaakov. Don't be afraid, my servant Yaakov. Because on Shabbos, a Jew is not even called Yaakov. On Shabbos, we're called Yisroel. We're in a complete God. We're living in Eretz Yisrael. We're called Yisroel. We know Yaakov has two names. So the Jew is in a completely godly place. Comes Motzei Shabbos, he's got to put on Esav's clothing. He's got to dress himself up like the Gentile and go into the world. A Jew is not part of the world. A Jew is a godly being who happens to walk on the physical earth. He's not but we have to pretend to be part of earth. We have to kind of make believe we're part of the ordinary human experience. So for that, Yisroel is now becoming Yaakov, but Yaakov is terrified. So we have to tell a Yid, Al tira avdi Yaakov. Don't be afraid, my servant Yaakov, because Hashem says, I'm gonna help you. Because to stay in heaven, to stay in Shabbos, we're never gonna fix the world. The only way we can fix the world is to get our hands dirty. We must go out into the world in order to repair it and to fix it. But for that, we have special protection. And we're going to have assistance from the Malachim, as we see. Okay. Let's read. And that's when Mashiach comes. And Mashiach comes, we say, Yom Shekulei Shabbos. It's going to be completely Shabbos. Because The whole work of the weekdays is the work of converting the darkness to light. Once we're done, and what happens on Shabbos? Shabbos, we celebrate that piece of the world that we converted to light that now becomes part of the Shabbos world. And that's already, so Shabbos we take, as a result of the work we did during the weekday, a piece of this world was attached to the Mashiach reality. And we go live in Mashiach's space for Shabbos. And then next week we go back into the Golistic world, into the exile, world of exile, the world that's outside, the Rishus HaRabim, the public domain, to conquer another part of the world to make that Shabbostic, and then join that into Shabbos. And that's called, as we're going to see soon, that's what Yaakov was praying. I didn't come back to that, it's good you mentioned that. That's what Yaakov is davening, V'shafti b'shalom el beis avi. I want to return in peace to my father's house. What's my father's house? Who's his father? Yitzchak. What's Yitzchak? Yitzchak, I mentioned it in the share that I spoke about today in the Mashiach class. Yitzchak is the laughter that's going to be when Mashiach comes. Here's a very interesting idea you should remember. Our three fathers, Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov. Avram is past. Avram is called our source. He's our shoresh. He's the past. Yaakov is the current, and Yitzchak is the future. As we know, it says in the Gemara, when Mashiach will come, we will identify the most with Yitzchak. We're going to say to Yitzchak, Ki ata avinu, you are our father. The Gemara says in regards to when Mashiach will come, God is going to say to the forefathers, your children sinned. And I'm sorry to say this, but Avram and Yaakov are going to sell us down the creek. They're going to say, if they sin, then you got to do what you got to do. If they sin, then you know whatever. And the only one who's going to rise into defense is Yitzchak. He's going to start negotiating with God. He's going to make a whole negotiation. And that's why it says, we're going to say to Yitzchak, Ki ata avinu, you are our lasting father. But let's not discuss that idea, but just the general idea is that Yitzchak is the dominant father after Mashiach comes. Why? Because Yitzchak means laughter. And we know there's a Yiddish expression, which is going to make me laugh, but there's a Yiddish expression when there is a pathetic situation that people are Jews now, but how did they live through the ghetto? How did the Jews live through all suffering? So everybody knows. Jews only made it through the Galus. I know everybody can say through Torah, but one of the main things that kept us through our exile was our humor. We always had a way of laughing of the worst situations. That's why you see that who was the ones who created Hollywood? The first were Jews. They created the theater. There was a Greek or that, but they were, comedy was all Fiddler on the Roof. These were the early shows that that the Jews were always into making freilach. But when you're in a situation and it's not, and it's nisht, and it's not, so there's an expression that goes, "Segar nish kagalechter." Right? Everybody heard that. It's a nish kagalechter. Stop kidding around. It's not a joke. Nish kagalechter. Since the world was created until now, it's a nish kagalechter. We were just talking about the fires. 68 people that were never burned to death. I mean, it's horrible. So the world is not full of laughter. The world is full of pain, darkness, suffering. So what are we saying? When will the world laugh? As I mentioned in the class today, Vatischak liyoim acharoin. The laughter comes in the end. Oz yemale schoik pinu. The laughter is going to be in the future. Yitzchak was all about what? Schoik asal li Aleichem. Kol hashemea Yitzchak li. Yitzchak is all about laughter. So the Yitzchak is the future. When we're going to laugh. Who's going to laugh? We're going to laugh. And God is going to laugh. That means because basically we're going to turn around when Mashiach comes and we're going to finally appreciate all that it took to get to that awesome, unbelievable state of existence, which the only way to get to it was through all the sorrow, pain, challenge, darkness, and this, that, all of us together went through this unbelievable struggle, and we prevailed. At the end, it's going to bring such pleasure and delight to Hashem, and that laughter is going to reverberate throughout all the creation, And primarily our world is going to be filled with laughter and joy and happiness. So Mashiach's time is the time of Yitzchak. But in order to get to Yitzchak, what do we need? It's all going to be accomplished through one person, and that's Yaakov. For Yaakov to do that, Jack has to hit the road. Yaakov is Jack, right? Jacob. He's got to hit the road. That means he's got to leave the comfort of his father's house. He has to leave the enclave of holiness. And he has to go deal with the Lavans, the Esavs, the Pharaohs of the world. You see, the next stages in Yaakov's life, first he's going to deal with Lavan, a swindler, liar, cheater. Then he's going to have to deal with the ruthless thug of Esav. Then he's going to have to deal with Paro, when he goes down to Mitzrayim. Talking about every kind of klipa, every kind of darkness, he's going to have to wrestle with and deal with. So Yaakov represents the struggling Jew throughout the entire time of thousands of years of working the world. And that's the meaning of the word Yaakov. Yaakov stands for Yud Ekev, a holy neshama. Yud is a holy neshama. Ekev, that comes down where? Ekev, in the heel, which is the body, the physical world, which is the lowest part. It's like the heel is the lowest part of the body. So the lowest part of creation and existence is this dark world. And the neshama is going to come down to sublimate the Ekev, to lift the feet up, so that eventually we come. So what does Yaakov say? V'shafti b'shalayim. I want to return in peace, because we know that a neshama comes down into this world, into this darkness. We hope that it's going to make it back safe. It's going to come back. Like the salmon, right? They go off into the ocean, and eventually, what do they have to do? They have to swim upstream against the current. It's unbelievable. There was a video. You saw this video just recently in Washington State of the fish. It was such a cute video. There was a fish. There was a river going over a road, and it was basically dry. The road. There wasn't enough water. It was like a little stream, and the salmon are swimming, and they're actually jumping across the road. There's a car standing there taking pictures of these big salmon jumping through the dry run, through the road, to get to the other side of the river to continue their journey up. That's what happens to a neshama in this world. You know, sometimes it gets really tough. And we have to make our way all the way back. So Yaakov is pleading, and it's really the pleading of each and every one of us. And whatever tikkun we have to make in the world, we daven, v'shafti b'shalom, I should return peacefully, el beis avi, to make it to the other end, which is the ultimate laughter that's going to be, back to the pleasure that comes along as a result of Yaakov's avodah. I'll share with you something really special. Yaakov and Yitzchak, we understand they're very powerful names. Yaakov's name is gematria. Yaakov is 182, which is gematria 7 times Yud Kei Vav Kei. Yaakov is 7 times Yud Kei Vav Kei. 26 times 7 is 182. Yitzchak is 208. One more time. Yitzchak is 8 times Yud Kei Vav Kei. So what's the difference between 7 and 8? So we know the number 7 is the number related to creation. 8 is the number that's infinite, transcending. Because 7, everything in the world, time and space is 7. 8 is the transcendent. Yitzchak is a transcendental state. Yitzchak is Mashiach's times. It's after the struggle. Where the world has become a vessel to receive the infinite, miraculous light of God. The infinite light. 8 times Yud Kei Vav Kei. Yaakov is struggling. He's limited in the world of 7. And he's fighting his way through the darkness. He's trying to get to the 8th. Okay. How does Yaakov get the 8th one? Want to something really cool? Show you something really fantastic. It's all not in the Maayon, but it's the idea of the Maayon. How does Yaakov get to the 8th? How does Yaakov get to the laughter? How do you get to 8? He has to fix his brother Esav. The only way, and as we said earlier, he has to fix the world. He has to fix the Esav. Why? Esav, what if Yitzchak has 8 times Yud Kei Vav Kei, and he inherits this to his children? 7 of them, of the Yud Kei Vav Keis, he gives into Yaakov's neshama. 1 of them, he gives into Esav. So 1 Yud Kei Vav Kei is hidden in Esav. Actually, the highest one is buried in Esav. the 8th one. But Esav's Yud Kei Vav Kei is covered up. How much is Esav? Esav is gematria 376. Shin Ayin Vav. 376. So it's 350 plus 26. Now watch this. 350 is made up from 7 times 50. Right? 7 times 50 is 350. That's 7 times the word tameh. He has 7 wrappers of tameh. The Yaakov has 7 Yud Kei Vav Keis. Esav has 1 Yud Kei Vav Kei, covered up by 7 times tameh, covering him up. And Yaakov has to burrow. Tameh means defiled. Yaakov has to burrow through the 7 tamehs and peel away the 7 klippas on Esav. That's why it says that there was the story of a sage. There was a story of a sage, and it's actually, his name was Rabbi Yaakov. It's amazing. There was a sage whose name was Rabbi Yaakov ben something. The Gemara says a story, I think in Masechtas Kedushin, that he was told, basically it was like this, they knew he was a big tzaddik. And they had a shul, and in the shul there was a demon that was appear in the shul. And the demon was with a 7-headed monster. And the people were terrified. So they decided to invite him to come daven mincha there, unbeknown to him. So they knew that he could take care of it. So he went to daven there, and suddenly the demon appeared. And when he bowed down 7 times, each time he bowed, one of the heads were chopped off of the demon. He bowed down when he was praying. This Yaakov, Rabbi Yaakov ben, I forgot. The Gemara says the story. And then he destroyed the demon. Fine. He's Yaakov. So he's the same bechina like Yaakov Avinu. What does Yaakov say when Yaakov meets his brother next week? It says Yaakov runs in front of Esav, and he bows down 7 times. And what does it say? Ad gishtoi el achiv, until he approaches his brother. And what happens when they approach? They kiss and they hug. What happened? He was a monster. He wanted to kill. He wanted to literally tear his head off his body. That's how much animosity Esav had. And the answer is, that's Esav's 7 layers. It's like 7-layer cake. 7 layers of Esav. 7 layers of klipa. But when Yaakov bows down, he knocks off the 7 layers, one after another. And then what's left? The Yud Kei Vav Kei that's in the heart of hearts of Esav. And then, Ad Gishtei Ad Achiv, on that place they're brothers, because they're both taking the Yud Kei Vav Keis from their father. And when you have the 7 Yud Kei Vav Keis of Yaakov meets the 8th one of Esav, you have Mashiach. That's Mashiach. And that's why the end of the days, V'olu Mashiach Bahar Tzion Lishpates Har Esav, when Yaakov and Esav come together to build the 3rd Beis HaMikdash, the ultimate joining of Yaakov and Esav, that's happening in front of our eyes right now. It's taking place in the world right now, this joining of Yaakov and Esav. The klippa, we're holding a little tearing off a lot of these klippas now, that's why they're making a lot of noise. But it's coming off. Sometimes it screams a little bit when it's coming off. But the klippas are coming off. They're in any case, and Esav and Yaakov, and then they come to Yitzchak, and that's the 3rd Beis HaMikdash, Yitzchak. It's like the laughter of the future. This idea, the Panim Yafis says this about the 7 times Yitzchak, and Panim Yafis was the Haflah. He's the one who made Sefer HaMakne and Sefer Haflah on one on Masechtas Ksubis and one on Masechtas Kedushin. Pinchas. So he says this in his Pirush on the Torah, he says this word of Yaakov and Esav, 7 brothers. Okay. Now, based on this whole idea, we'll appreciate the whole concept of Shalom Aleichem. Let's see. Inyan Shalom Aleichem, we learn inside, we start the Maimer. Inyan Shalom Aleichem. He says, it's Shayach, the Tzemach Tzedek says, Lo Pasik V'Shafti B'Shalom. It's connected to the Pasik V'Shafti B'Shalom. I'm going to return in peace. Inyan Shalom Aleichem, the idea of Shalom Aleichem, Shoyim B'Shabbos, B'Leil Shabbos, that we say on Shabbos and on Friday night. And the Inyan Malachei HaShalom, what does it mean? Angels of peace. Remember, these angels are first called angels, the attending angels, and then we refer to them as angels of peace. It appears that we can say as follows. Based on what it says in Torah Or, in the beginning of Parshas Vayeitzei, a pasuk v'shafti b'shalom. On this pasuk v'shafti b'shalom. So it says in Torah Or as follows. You know what? I'm sorry. As I told you, the mimer is cryptic. So I'm going to read for you a little bit. What does it say in Torah Or? So in Parshas, in Torah Or, this week, the Alter Rebbe says, listen to these words. Now, this mom should repeat to what I was telling you, but he says, Kehine Avi, when he says, V'shafti b'shalom al beis Avi, Avi call Yitzchak, is referring to Yitzchak. Kamashakasav ki ata avinu, you're our father in the future. Shala asid lava yomra al Yitzchak, we're going to say, Davke to Yitzchak, ki ata avinu, you're our father. So what's Yitzchak? Kehine Yitzchak maloshen tzchoik v'tanog. Yitzchak is the laughter and the delight. Kamashakasav, like it says, tzchoik asali. That Hashem made me a tzchoik. Kol Hashem mea, whoever hears Yitzchak li will laugh to me. But Yitzchak is in the future. Yitzchak will laugh. V'uloshen asid, so that's the future world. Sheyizgala, what's going to happen when Mashiach will come? It will be revealed. God's immense pleasure from all the work that we've all done together. That's going to create a tremendous oineg and pleasure above. What gives the Eibishter pleasure? So take a look at the pasuk. Everything is so perfect. Tzchoik asa li Aleichem. What is Elokim? Elokim is the name of God of concealment. Havaya is revelation. So we know the spiritual worlds above, they're created through the name Yud Kei Vav Kei, Havaya. That can't give God pleasure. Why doesn't it give God pleasure? Because nothing special about it. Of course, they're all holy and they're all saying holy, holy, holy all day because they know of nothing else. What gives God, the Eibishter, pleasure? What gives God pleasure is a chiddush, is a novelty. What's the novelty? When something of this dark world that is full of ego, full of self, surrenders, first it recognizes and acknowledges the Eibishter, and recognizes that God is its power. And then it turns around to serve the Eibishter, surrenders itself and puts itself to service for Hashem, that's unbelievable. That, and to the point that is so absurd above, it's so like unexpected, because this world is created through the utmost of tzimtzum and of concealment of the name of Elohim, which makes this world so disconnected from God. So when you take a person or an object or an entity in this world and you turn it around, that it doesn't do what it wants, it does what God wants, it creates such pleasure by Hashem because it was unexpected. The mashal that he gives, we'll see in a second. So that's the tzchoik, the laughter coming, tzchoik asali Elokim, from the concealments of the world when we polish the world. When we transform the darkness to light, that gives the Eibishter a pleasure. As he says, V'hu al yedei b'chinas habirudim shalamata. It's through the refinement that we do. Birudim are it's a term that we use, borer. Borer means to select. When we take a look at every physical object and select the spark that's in it, which means we uncover its godly potential. That means we're connecting the spark. And what are we doing? B'chinas eskafia. We're subduing the ego, the yesh, the sense, the klipa is being subdued. And then not only we're subduing it and crushing it, but v'eshapcha. We're turning it over. Mechashuchel and nahura. We're taking an enemy of holiness and we're converting it to become an ally of holiness, to join along. For example, if we take our own animal soul, we all have an animal soul that's dark, that all it wants is the material pleasures of the physical world. It doesn't have no relationship with God. And we get it to change, like it says in the pasuk, "V'haftas Hashem Elokecha b'chol levavcha, b'shnei yitzarecha." You love God with both your inclinations. Even the Yetzer Hara loves Hashem. Al yedei halaz v'amshachos. It's through all the elevations and all the drawing down. Through Torah and mitzvahs, that's what we do. We draw godliness down, we elevate, we purify the world, whatever. So what happens then? It causes laughter. So just like the laughter down here. If you want to catch a king's attention, the guy, he's got money, so you're going to bring him a present. He might look for a second. It's not interesting. It's not really. Gold he doesn't need, diamonds he doesn't need. What are you going to give him that's going to catch him? So one of the things people would do in order to get the king to pay attention, to get excited, to put him in a good mood, is you bring in a parrot. And the parrot talks, especially if a king has never seen a parrot before talking. He sees the parrot talking, it's like amusing. Now, even though the parrot didn't say much, you can bring in a really, really, really good orator who can give an amazing speech, or a very wise man who can say very, very wise teachings. Okay, if it's very wise, very intelligent, maybe he'll enjoy it, but it's a limited enjoyment. But when he sees the parrot, he's getting so excited, the king. Even though all the parrot says, I want a cracker, something as silly as that. But it gets, why? Because a parrot should talk. It's like, it basically throws the person's entire perception of reality off. Like whatever you thought is, suddenly it's completely different. And that creates like a certain surge of a deeper self that comes out in laughter and enjoyment. A little parrot that talks. It's not its way to do that. Which is not the case when a person talks. We don't get pleasure. It's a normal thing. So where does God get pleasure? Dafka from this dark world. When we turn it around and make it into something godly, it gives the Eibush the pleasure. Who's Yaakov? Who Yud Ekev is the neshama. Yud is the neshama. It's a little pinta, a little part of God, piece of God. Ekev, and what happens to the neshama goes down into the lowest parts of the world. Getlichkeit, godliness through the neshamas goes down, adla mata, till it goes all the way down. Gam bepchenas akvayim, all the way to the heel. Shem oilam ois hanefradim. These are the worlds that live in separate consciousness. Separate consciousness means it's not conscious of God. It's completely torn away from Hashem. Legamrei abaligvul. That's called Charan. Charan is a place that angers God. Charan is something else. Nishmak a word about Charan. Charan also comes from the word dryness. If you take the word Charan, you rearrange the letters, you get the word Nichar. Nichar groini. When a person is hoarse, it's called Nichar groini. My throat is dry. Charan is dryness. So what does that mean? The world is created through what? Here, a way of seeing things. See how you can learn the parsha and have chas v'sholom such an ancient story of a parsha. Like you have people go Shabbos. Can you say a vart on the parsha? There's a vart on the parsha. That's a nice vart, very nice. But here the way you can learn the parsha, and the parsha is alive. The whole world it's your life. We're not dealing with some. So now the Alter Rebbe explains Charan. He says Charan, the whole world is created by the words of God. How did Hashem create the world? Basar mamaris nivra. So what's the world really? It's Hashem's speech. So in the upper realms, however, Hashem's voice is loud and clear. But down here, Hashem is hoarse. The letters are there, but you don't hear them. They're hidden in the world, Hashem's dry throat. And you end up with a Charan. And what happens in a place where God's voice is hoarse, where there's a dryness and you don't hear the oisiyos that the Eibishter is speaking? You end up with a creation that angers Hashem. Because by them not sensing God, they become themselves gods. And then they act like the generation of the flood, the generation of Sodom or Mitzrayim or whatever it is, in the most corrupted way. But when we take that very Charonian world, turn it around, we're going to see soon, then that gives the Eibush tremendous nachas. Vayeitzei Yaakov miBeershav vayelech Harana. Shenimshach v'nishtalshalus b'ishtalshalus v'tzimtzumim kol kach. So many ishtalshalus down. Le'eshavos yesh Maayon. To creates something from nothing. Baalei Gvul, limited creatures. But not only are they limited, Va'almen de Pruda, there are worlds of separation. Shem B'chinas Nevroim Nefradim, they are separated from Hashem. Shem B'chinas Yesh V'nifrad B'fnei Atzmoi, they are a Yesh, they are an entity on their own. Shenikra Charoin, V'u Meloshen Nichar Garoini, my throat is dry. The godly energy that's drawn into them, Shenikra B'chinas Garoin, which is called Garoin, Shihu Koil, it's the voice. Kenoida Mechusar Musta Behem. It's silent. It says, like the Shechina says, Nalamti Demia. I am silent. I can't talk. I'm hoarse. I'm muted. Achahem Almen de Pruda, until they become Almen de Pruda. V'choyshech legamri, they become completely dark. Ki'iluyem yesh v'nifrad b'fnei atzmai, and they act as if they have an existence on their own, without the Eibishter. V'azei nikra charoin loshen nicha groini, which calls him ne'lamti demia. Or there's another pasuk that something's brought. It says yoinas elim. The Shechina is called a dove, a Yona. Elim, she's mute. She's enlivening the whole world, but no one hears her chirping. No one hears the Shechina's song. She's Golus HaShechina. Okay. But what's the intention? What's the point of that whole descent? In that dark world that is separated, removed, and anti-godly, that we should make peace, we should turn it around, we should enlighten the ignorant world. From darkness to light. We should take all the midos roos that we have. Shem Ava, for instance, we have a love. But our love, going unchecked, will go into all kinds of loves that are selfish, completely selfish. Nothing to do with purpose, with a higher meaning in life, just for self. So to take that love and to direct that love to love Hashem, or to love another Jew, or to love doing a mitzvah, or to love goodness. And the fiery flames of fire of the silliness of the world, oyakas, that's taking the love and changing it. But then we also have anger, the gevura. So we have to take the anger and also turn it around. That we should only use the anger to get angry at things that are blocking Hashem, but not, right? They should be only to Hashem. To be bottled to Hashem. And not to be separated. This is called tshuva. Because you're taking, what's a Baal tshuva? Baal tshuva was yesterday, he or she was alienated from spirituality, from God, from anything holy. They're doing tshuva, they're starting it's a new discovery. So when we take the things in this world that are ignorant, beginning with ourselves, with our animal soul, that are not familiar with holiness and godliness, their natural tendency is towards the pleasures of the world, and turn it towards the service of Hashem. We flip it over, and we make our animal soul into a Baal Tshuva. Our neshama is a tzaddik, because our neshama has been in the heaven. Who's greater, a tzaddik or a Baal Tshuva? Tshuva is greater. Shu b'tshuva, shu b'chela yatir, with a greater. Tahainu amidos rois, the midos rosh, and berish be'esh, their fire, lahapcham, to turn them over, lashivam lashem levad, to turn them to God alone canal. V'zeu b'makam shabal tshuva oimdim tzadikim gemurim en yochaylam lamed. This causes the Eibishter, this causes God tremendous pleasure. When we turn the lowly darkness over to light, that causes the Eibishter laughter. That's why it's much greater 1 hour of tshuva, of repentance in this world, from all the life of the world to come. Because over there it's worlds, Gan Eden. There. I mean, it's very painful. And it's a horrible thing that happened in California, that a whole town was decimated and burnt. Horrible. So I don't want to chas v'sholem make small of that. It's unbearable what happened. But on the other hand, there's something interesting in the idea. It's the first time that paradise burnt. It's the name of the town. Because when Mashiach will come, we will realize that paradise is not the place. The place to be is in this physical paradise, a world full of light. It says all the neshamas will leave paradise, and they're going to come down back into the bodies in this world. Why does it have to come in such a ugly way? I'm not chas v'shalom justifying it, but I know what Hashem does. He does, but I'm just saying. This causes the pleasure above. It's mamish like a bird that talks, like the parrot. And here this gewaldig thing. Rina, because when a ches and a hey exchange, ches and a hey are letters that exchange one with the other. Like we see on Pesach, there are two opposites. One is the worst of the worst, and one is the best of the best. Chametz and matzah, they both have mem and tzaddik in them. And we know that you can't make matzah only from something that is chametzable. Only something that could become chametz you can make into matzah. Because the whole idea is you're making the chametz into matzah. You're changing the ches into a hay. So now, when you elevate this world, guess what happens? Instead of this world angering God and mute meaning you don't hear this world is silent, it becomes the opposite. This world becomes the source of pleasure, the source of all song. All song comes from down here. The ultimate rina comes from, what do we say? Az yamale schaik pinu, ul shaineinu rina, from the charan becomes rina. And not only that, from the muteness, from the silence in this world, where you don't hear God, the loudest expression of God is going to be dafka from the world. That's the song. Okay. Nasarina becomes a song. Like it says, Be'ibud Rishayim, when the wicked are destroyed, Rina is a song. It doesn't mean when we, God forbid, destroy, kill the wicked. It means when the wickedness of the world dissolves, Rina, we have a song. That's the great pleasure. Now, when is this pleasure going to be revealed? Now we don't see this pleasure. Now the world is a world of struggle, a world of difficulty, a world of hardship. But only when the dust will settle, or when the fog will rise, and we will suddenly see this magnificent godly world that we created, we're going to go crazy from the pleasure that we're going to have. There won't be any more darkness. There won't be any more fixing. Nothing needs to be fixed anymore. Ups and downs. It's going to be resting from cutting and plowing. All that work is going to be resting. And God will be fully revealed down here below. And our physical world will be unified with Hashem in the same way that Atzilus is now one with God. The physical world is going to have the same yichud with the Eibishter. And over there, God is totally one with the world, with the Oiros and with the Kalim. Over here too, Hashem is going to be totally one with everything. Now Hashem creates this world to be what? From nothing, from Elokus. Hashem is creating yesh. Hashem creates us to be a something. And what do we do through our avodah? We make the yesh back ayin. Not that we make it disappear. It remains, but it's not ego. It's not self-centered. It allows the true nature of its existence, which is God, to flow through it. Like the Baal Shem Tov said, the Eibishter get Yidden Gashmias. Ruchnias. The Eibishter macht von Ruchnias Gashmias. The Eibishter makes from the spiritual material, and the Jewish people make from the physical spiritual. We take the physical and envelop it in spiritual back. And then the Eibishter's pleasure is going to reveal Shu b'chinas ein sof. God's pleasure, this delight, is an infinite pleasure. V'hu b'chinas yoim hazayin, and that's the ultimate Shabbos. Yoim shekuloi Shabbos u'menucha. There's no more work, it's rest. L'chayei lomim. Shu b'chinas gili oina ge'elya, in the revelation of the great delight, kenoida, shenasem ha'berurim shalamata, that happened from all the berurim and all the work that we did on here, b'shita alfa shnin, in the 6,000 years, which correspond to the 6 days of creation, 6,000 years, and then 6 millennia, and we prepare for Shabbos, for the great revelation of Hashem's pleasure. Zehu v'shafti b'shalom el beis avi. Yaakov says, who's Yaakov? Yaakov is standing right now. He's leaving the first Shabbos, and he's going to take a journey through the week. And that journey is going to take him through Haran, through Lavan, Esav, Paro, and it's really a 4,000-year journey that Yaakov is beginning to embark on. And as Yaakov is taking his steps, that's when he's praying, V'shafti b'shalom, please God, let me return in peace. Because he knows, and what's peace? He's going to explain in a minute what peace is. Why b'shalom? Very important. And this is the idea that we need to understand the whole Shalom Aleichem. Shehu b'chinas chazara v'hashava. I'm going to return where? Shel b'chinas Yaakov, that Yaakov, mi b'chinas Haran, going back from the Haran digga world, canal, leb'chinas rina, to the great song that happens, shenikra beis avi. You're going from Haran to Rina, to your father's house. Shehu b'chinas Yitzchak, which is Yitzchak, shehu b'chinas hatzchoik v'hatainog, it's the joy and the laughter, sheyizgala la'asid v'chinas eskafya v'sapcha. Okay. The reason why I'm learning this whole piece, even though it's not part of the Maimer, is because I realize that I gave you 2 of a small discourse. It's only 1 page. And I really feel bad that it's so little. So therefore, I'm adding on extra pieces. Okay? So no one should have complaints that I ripped you off. You thought you're coming for a long discourse, and then you saw something short. That's one explanation. The other explanation is because in order to understand the Maimer that we're going to learn, it's all based, the Tzemach Tzedek jumps off this whole Inyan. That's why we're going to say Dafka to Yitzchak, because you're our father. The point is not the struggle. The point is not the pain. The point is the whole intention. In the descent of all the worlds, will be the great laughter and the pleasure. The Yitzchak state. What does he mean? But here's a very important. V'shafti b'shalom, I will return in peace. What's the meaning in peace? Now, what's the pleasure? What brings the pleasure? What brings the pleasure is that we took the low world that's in conflict with God, and we turned it around to be unified with Hashem. That's called making peace. You're making peace. You have two sides that are at war with each other, that can't see eye to eye. Making peace is negotiating a thing that they can come together and live in harmony. So the physical, material world that God created for thousands of years and it is in conflict with God. Why? Because it's in denial of Hashem. So it's in conflict and it's resisting. When we finish the work, we finally achieve peace. And the point of peace means not that only one prevails. The point of peace is that the two come together. And that's why we don't destroy this world. When Mashiach comes, it's not, we're going to leave this world, we're going to go back up to the spiritual place. We abandon this world. That's not the whole point. No, down here is where the party happens, because this world becomes receptive of God. So we make peace, and the ultimate peace is the most difficult peace. The greater the conflict, the harder to make the peace. The more opposite it is. That's why Trump is saying that to make peace with the Israelis and the Palestinians, it's the deal of the century. It's the deal of the century. He wants to make the deal of the ultimate deal, and he thinks he can negotiate that, right? So the point over here is the ultimate peace is to make peace between a world with the Eibishter. When we turn over this world and we make it in peace with God, that's called peace. Liyois, and this is the main point we need for the whole Maimer. Ki shalom hu ha'machaber shnei afechem. Because peace is what unifies two opposites. That Hashem makes peace. Shemichol sar shal mayim, v'Gavriel sar shal eish. Okay, they should get together. That's the whole idea. Okay, once we have that, now let's learn inside. Now we can understand why Shabbos. Now this is what he discussed over here. Is the plan of all of history. It's the vast eternal plan. It's the vast great scheme that God created. But then, on a small little way, this happens every week. During the week, we go down to deal with the harsh world. Shabbos, we go back to Hashem and we withdraw from the world, but we don't really withdraw because Shabbos, we are still physical. But we're basically eating the food that we cook during the week, and we're eating it on Shabbos, which means we've taken a part of the world and brought it into the Mashiach reality, into that peaceful state with God. And Shabbos, we know there's no conflict, because even our material things that we do on Shabbos is a mitzvah. Eating on Shabbos is not full of Yetzer Hara, it's a mitzvah. Even the physical, why? Because even when you're eating and you're enjoying the food, you can be completely godly conscious on Shabbos. Because Shabbos is just this intense permeation, where Hashem permeates our consciousness so intensely that even the physical things are filled with holiness on Shabbos. So therefore, we open up Shabbos with the declaration of peace. Shalom Aleichem, there's peace now. But what do the angels have to do with it? So we're going to see that the angels assist us during the week. We need assistance of the angels. Particularly for the work of making peace, we need assistance of the angels. And because they assist us in our work, we give them the blessing of peace. Because on Shabbos, we're going to see in a moment, we turn out being higher than them. But because they helped us achieve their heights, we have to give them a commission. So we give them some shalom from the shalom that we created. It's amazing. Okay, so let's see. Inyan Malachi Shalom v'neder yeshleim al pi ma shekasa b'Torah or reish parshas Vayeitzei al pasik v'shafti b'shalom. What does we say? The gilui oineg zeh, that the ultimate gilui al yedei beis b'china shalom is to the two levels of shalom. Shal yedei zeh yavi. I didn't really get into this two levels of shalom, but it's not negay so much. Aliyos v'yeridos. There's two ways you can make peace between God and the world. One is by you refine the elements of the world and you bring him up towards godliness. Another way is by bringing Hashem down. It's two ways. It's not negay so much for this minor. Through this we come back to our Father's house. Who is that? That's Yitzchak. This is the laughter and the pleasure that's going to be when Mashiach will come. On the day when it's completely Shabbos and rest. Why? What does it have to do with Shalom? Because the whole idea of Shalom is to connect two opposites. Ayin Sham Ba'bir, then look later in the beer. After this mimer, there's a beer also, an explanation, where he explains very thoroughly this idea of Shalom, of peace, of two opposites. Now definitely, the whole Shabbos, and that's what it says in the Alter Rebbe's mimer. That Tzemach Tzedek comes and he says, in every Shabbos, there is a ray from what is going to be revealed in Yom Shekulei Shabbos. Because every Shabbos is a little bit of the future Shabbos. Ella, when Mashiach will come, the difference is not only that then it's going to be for the whole world and now it's only in a little piece, but it's more than that. When Mashiach will come, because everything in the world is going to be rectified already, it's going to be this great laughter and unification is going to be fully revealed that everybody's going to feel it. Even animals are going to feel it. As we know that animals will lose their predatory nature. Animals, it says, the lion will live with the wolf and the sheep will be together. The namer and the whatever, all the animals. Even a snake and children will play. There won't be any more animosity in the world. There won't be competition. Everything's to be unified with the Eibishter. That means even the animals will feel it. It will be fully revealed in the world. Gam bechitzonius. Chitzonius means in the most outer crust of existence, it will be sensed this tremendous unification and harmony with God. The achshav, and now on every Shabbos, it's also there, but it's b'pchinas makiv, means it's hovering above us. It's above, it's aloof, it's outside of our consciousness, but it's there, in a sense. So, but a makiv you can also affect you. That's where we all feel a little bit more synchronized on Shabbos, a little more unified on Shabbos. But still, it's not. We don't feel it so strongly because it's in a little way. Inyan Vayeitzei Yaakov. So now he's going to explain how the Vayeitzei Yaakov refers to every Shabbos, the weekday. Vayelech Harana. So the avoid of going to Haran, Zeu b'sheishes yemei ha'maisa. Going to Haran is during the 6 days of the week. Sheyoyred v'nimshach b'chenas Yaakov sheba Atzilus. Yaakov of the world of Atzilus. And in a sense, who is that? It's the Shekhinah, but it's also each and every one of us. We're all the Yaakov of Atzilus. And if we're in Atzilus, we should only be busy thinking of Atzilus. What's Atzilus? Atzilus is all the Olukus. We shouldn't be involved with worldly things. Shabbos, we're completely immersed in holiness. Comes the weekday, we got to deal with the harshness of life, with the reality, the outside world, the bills, the emails, business, customers, clients, employers, employees. B'chinas Yaakov shebatzilus. So Yaakov of Atzilus goes down where? Lebiyah. You go down. Biyah is an acronym for the 3 lower worlds: Bria, Yetzirah, and Asiyah. So we descend into the world. And what's our job in the world? So the Tzemach Tzedek says, Levader birudim, to do a birur. The only reason we're coming into the world is to purify the world, to do a fixing, a purification of the world. Where there it explains how the Jew, on Shabbos he's called Yisroel, and during the week he's called Yaakov, and he's going down to wrestle with the world. The F Shaloimar, now the Tzemach Tzedek adds, maybe we can say, Ki pirish me be'er sheva hu mebchina Shabbos. Vayeitzei Yaakov, where is Yaakov going out from? Me be'er sheva. He's leaving the world of Shabbos, and where is he going? Into the week. Why is Be'er Sheva Shabbos? Because Be'er means the well, the spring, Sheva of 7. So Shabbos is the 7th day. V'ayin bekavones HaKiddush, the Shabbos nisker Be'er. In the Kavana of Kiddush, of Shabbos, it mentions Be'er. That means in the Kavanas Arizal, in the mystical meditations that are given that one should think during Kiddush, it mentions something about the Be'er, that the Kiddush is associated with a Be'er, with a spring, with a well. So you see that but he's saying it's not just Sheva. Sheva, 7 is Shabbos, but Be'er is also related to Shabbos. The Gam Kiddusha Rabbah, that's Kiddush of Friday night. Shabbos day is called, we also know, Shabbos B'day, the Kiddush is called Kiddusha Rabbah, the big Kiddush. Why is it the big Kiddush? It's called the big Kiddush because we make only a tiny Kiddush, because we only say one pasuk. Just like a blind person, we refer to in Torah as a saginor, someone who sees really well. Or rather, he has a lot of light. That's what we say. Saginor, he has a lot of light. So too, the small Shabbos Kiddush, which is only, all it is Boyer Priya Gafen, really in essence, is called the big Kiddush. But Al Kapanim, the deeper reason it's called the big Kiddush is because the word Rabbah, if you rearrange the letters, is the word Be'er. So you see, Be'er is associated with Shabbos. Isa be'Priyetz Chaim, Rabbah Oisi is Be'er. So it says in Priyetz Chaim from the Arizal that Rabbah is Be'er. The Gamba Avodah, also in Avodah. What's the main Avodah of Shabbos and of Shabbos? What's the main service of Shabbos? The main avoid of Shabbos is moichin and midos. Think about it. During the weekday, what are we doing? We're plowing the world. We're dealing with a rough world. We're fighting the klippa. Shabbos is mainly about davening, learning and davening. That's what you're supposed to do on Shabbos. Pray and study. It's the avodah of the moyach and the avodah of the leiv. Davening is the service of the heart mainly. Learning is the service of the mind. Or davening itself, this first part of it when you're meditating on, it's the mind, and then the heart. Moicha v'liba, that's Shabbos. Be'er Sheva is going to explain means the brain and the heart. How can one Be'er Sheva mean the brain and the heart? Because he says an interesting thing. He says there are two people that named Be'er Sheva, Be'er Sheva. One is Avram and the other one is Yitzchak. In Parshas, let me show you where it is. By Avram Avinu, when he made a bris with Avimelech, in the end of Parshas Vayera, here it says, in the end of Parshas Vayera, Al Kain Kara Lamakamahu Be'er Shava, Kisham Nishbu Shneim, because both of them had an oath. That's over here. Then we have later by Yitzchak, Parshas Toles. Vahi bayoyim ahu vayivayu avdei Yitzchak vayigidu al oides ha-be'er ha-shachafar v'yem vayikra oisay shavua al kein shem ha'ir be'er sheva ad hayoyim hazeh. So the same place is called two times Be'er Sheva. So he's going to explain the reason why it has two names Be'er Sheva is because Be'er Sheva is either referring Kabbalistically, it's either referring to Bina or it's referring to Malchus. Bina is called Be'er Sheva because she is the Be'er, she is the well that feeds the seven midos. She's the mother of the six emotions and Malchus, which is the seventh. So she's called Be'er because she's the source of the midos. Malchus is called Be'er Sheva because all the midos flow into Malchus. She's the seventh and she's Makabel, everything from. Malchus is Be'ikr, the heart, and Bina is the Moach. So therefore, in Be'er Sheva itself, you have Moyach and Leiv, mind and heart. What is the avodah of Shabbos? Moichin and Midas. And where are we during the week? If we're in the mind over here on Shabbos and in the heart, where are we during the week? During the week, we get stuck in the throat, in the narrow passageway. Goron. And that's where all the klipa is. Paro is right over here, and inside there are the three pipes that are there. One is a blood vessel, which is the main artery that runs through from the head down. I forgot what it's called, that artery, you know. It's a fancy name. Then there is another, is the esophagus, and then there was the food pipe, and then there's the trachea. And the trachea is the food pipe. So what's the trachea is the windpipe, and the esophagus is the food pipe, and then there is the blood, and then there is the blood artery. These three pipes that are, it's good that Hashem is into cosmetics, that He covers it all up. He doesn't leave the pipes exposed, because really what the person is three hoses that go right down. And that's really what counts. It's just for cosmetic purposes, God puts around, nice coating. But in any case, these three pipes are the three ministers of Pharaoh. Three cleaves. We know when we enter, whoever would have thought of that? When we enter into Mitzrayim, who are the first people we meet? Whenever we go to Mitzrayim, we meet Sarah Mashkim, Sarah Oifim, Sarah Tabachim. Strange people. Like, who cares about them? And why are the big? It's like, why are the big ministers in Mitzrayim? One is a baker, one is a. And the answer is they represent. Basically, we're into eating, we're into all the other blood, we're into the physical passions, which is the blood pipe, and so on and so forth. And what do these things do? They take us into, they disconnect us from mind and heart, from a deeper service. So that's cool. During the week, we're in Garain, and Garain can become Charain. Charain is the same gematria as Garain. So that's the weekday. Weekday we go down. Where does Yaakov go? He goes to the Charain. He goes to the Garain. But on Shabbos, where are we? In the Moyach and in the Leiv. Vayeitzei Yaakov mi Be'er Sheva. Yaakov leaves Be'er Sheva. Vayelech Harana, gets stuck in the pipe. Why? But that's the avoda, because in that clogged narrowness of this dark world is where we have to unclog and create the connection between the mind and the heart and so on and so forth. Okay, let's read it inside. In the Torah, it mentions 2 times Al Ken Kara Be'er Sheva. That's why it's called Be'er Sheva. Ki Bina Nikra Be'er Sheva. Bina is called Be'er Sheva. First of all, Shehich HaChafira. Bina is a chafira. It's a dugout. V'hakeli, and it's a keli. Sheboi noivei amayim chayim dechachma. First of all, why is it called a well? Because Bina is a recipient. It's female Bina. She's a recipient. And the flow of Chachma is masculine light, flows into her. So the waters of Chachma flow in Bina. Pchenas Bittel, which is Bittel. What's Chachma? Chachma is Koach Ma, the waters of Bittel flow in Bina. Ki Abba ve'ima, because father and mother, who are father and mother? Chachma and Bina, called father and mother. Hem Trein Rein, they're 2 friends that never separate. This is a very important idea that we're going to see in the Maayon a little further up, that the Chachma and Bina Sfirot are never separated. They're always together. If Chas v'Shalom they would separate, then the worlds would cease to exist. The lower Sfirot, the Ze'er Anpin, the 6 emotions, with Malchus are not always together. They have a time when there's Zivug, time when they're intimate and they're unified with each other, time when they're separated. We'll see soon what that psychological, what spiritually, what that means. But Abba ve'ima Chachma and Bina always together. Terrain Rei and the loy misparsh. Nekuda behechala. It's called a nekuda, the point in the hechal. Let me just explain just very briefly. Bina is what? Bina is, Chachma is the, when you're learning something, what's the Chachma? Chachma is the point. The seed of the whole idea. What's Bina? Bina is the whole development. The whole structure. When you take an idea and you completely develop and understand it thoroughly with all of its details, all of its ramifications, all of its consequences, all of its applications, and you can make it bigger and bigger and bigger. One thought, for example, you take one idea and you explain four stories in the Torah with that one idea. Like I did before, I told you how Yitzchak and Yaakov, one of them has 1 Yud Kei Vav Kei, the other has 8, and I explained the story in the Gemara with it, and explained, it's all the Bina, you're all fleshing out, but there's one Nekuda. What's the Nekuda? That the point is that there is a transcendental pleasure that's derived from the work that we do in the darkness. That's the Chachma. And then there's the Bina, all the nice Torah that we can say around it. So we know like this. If you don't have Bina and you only have a point, but you don't have any details to it, what happens to the Chachma? If you have a flash of a concept and you lose it, it dissolves, it goes back into nothingness. That's why whenever you have a creative moment, if you don't immediately write it down or put it into vessels, into containers, it falls away. Because you can't have an akuda, you can't have a point without a heichal. You need to have a heichal. On the other hand, when you have a bunch of words, a bunch of kalim, but there's no point, then it doesn't have a kiyum, it's nothing. It's like sometimes you have a baldarshan. You have people that are baldarshanim, and they'll give a drasha for a whole hour. And they'll darshan to you medrash and stories and all kinds of things, but there was like no one theme or a point that ran through it. Then it's just, it's like gegangen and gefahren and geret and abi geret. But I mean, it's nice, but there's no like, what's the nekuda? What's the point in the whole thing? There has to be a nekuda. Nekuda behechala, and nekuda in the hechal. So that's a bina. V'hu mekar l'shev hamida. Why is she called Be'er Sheva? So now that explains why Bina is a Be'er, because she's receiving the waters of Chachma. But why is she called Be'er Sheva? Because she's a makar to the 7 midos. The midos shebeseichel. But these are the levels of the midos of the intellect. Meaning these midos are not yet emotions in the heart. Being that it's still in the Bina, what kinds of midos of them? They're the midos of the mind. It's the mind is saying you should love. It's not real love. It's not real emotion. Kamay ayin rabasi. What's an ayin rabasi? In Shema, we have a big ayin. The big ayin shows on, the reason why it's not a regular, ayin is 70. So that's referring to the 7 midos. And each one has 10 inside of them. So it's 7 times 10 is 70. But why isn't it a regular ayin? Why is it a large ayin? Because it's not the emotions in their place. It's the emotions when they're still in the mind. And they're much higher then. So it's a large ayin. The Shema, the ayin rabasi of Shema. V'zeu be'er sheva. That's be'er sheva, the first be'er sheva. The gabe Avram, that's Avram's be'er sheva. Why? Because when you take a look at the word Avram, Avram is a channel for Chachma. If you take the word Avram and you split the word Avram, you get the word Aver Ma. What's Aver Ma? Aver means he's a conduit, he's a limb. Ma, for Koyach Ma, the power of Bittul, that's what Chachma is. Chachma is the power to see God's emes. Ma, total Bittul. But what does Chachma do? What does Avram do? He brings the Ma into Bina. He channels it into the Be'er Sheva. The Abeis, what's the second level of Be'er Sheva? Hushaha Malchus Nikragam came Be'er Sheva. Malchus is also called Be'er Sheva. Why? She makabelas Mesheva Midas. She receives from the 7 Midas. Uba Avoida, and in Avoida. Hu Alev, it's the heart. Shuhu Keli, which is a Keli, Legilu Yazayin Midas Shebelev, to the 7 Midas of the heart. So that's the avoid of Shabbos, where you're working with your moyach and your lave, you're in the air shava. Omnam vayei lecharana. What does it mean that you go to charan? Uhelam amidos. Suddenly all the godly midos get concealed. B'meitzer hagora, and you get stuck in the throat. Sheshamu p'chenasar hamashkin. That's what I was telling you earlier. Over there you encounter all the taivas of the world, all the pleasures, all the distractions, all the lusts and desires, and appetites, and fears, and insecurities, and laziness, and all the other whatever stuff. Hisar hamashkin. That's the minister of the bartender, the one in charge. Sara oifim v'sara tabachim. Shu p'chenas veshet. Veshet is the esophagus. Vivridin is the blood vessel. Sheheim ein kol tanugay olam hazeh. These are all the pleasures of the world. Umachshavoisav, and the barrage of constant distracting thoughts of earning a living and the like. Sheheim amoinim gilui. These are things that do not allow to have holy, godly emotions. Umavdilin bein oir Hashem shebemoyach, between your knowledge that you know. A person has a lot of godly knowledge in their mind, but it cuts it off. Uben gilui alev, and then you should feel it in your heart. Shehem beis bechinas be'er sheva. These are the 2 be'er shevas on this. But what's the point of it? Now, why do we get during the weekday? Why do we run away from our moyach and our leiv? And we get into this charan in order to fix. Likafia, to subdue, ulahapacha, and to transform, from darkness to light. And this creates a great pleasure. And then the charan becomes a song. I will return to my father's house. And this is Shabbos. Shabbos is the revelation of the supernal pleasure. Like it says, you should call out to Shabbos oineg, delight. And here's an amazing other thing. Shabbos is a day of pleasure, which we're supposed to may have pleasure on Shabbos, because it's God's pleasure. But also, v'gam b'chinas rina. Shabbos is also a time for singing. Ki mitzvah l'shoyrer b'Shabbos. It's a mitzvah to sing on Shabbos. Shabbos is a mitzvah to sing. The Arizal says that the main thing to do on Shabbos is to sing. The Rina is the song. Why? The song of Shabbos is not from Shabbos. It's because of the conversion of the week. It's whatever we converted during the week into holiness that sings on Shabbos. When you're singing, when you sing a niggin in shul, what does it do? It raises it, or you sing Zmiris at home, you're singing a song. It lifts everybody up to a higher place. Allah, it's elevation. And that's what Shabbos is. Shalakach b'Shabbos, shu aliyas ha'olam. Shabbos is the time of the elevation of worlds. Tzarech liyos b'chinas shir, there has to be the song, verina and song. V'oimrim b'Shabbos, mizmar, and that's why in Shabbos we say a special mizmar, ranenu tzadikim, let the righteous sing, I am b'zoya truma daf kuflayet, lamed zayin on the base. Fine. V'nei Allah, zu the Shabbos, now this elevation that happens on Shabbos, well, base avi, it's to my father's house. B'chinas Yitzchak. We're rising up to Yitzchak. Why does it have to do? Because Shabbos is pleasure. And pleasure is associated with the deepest, we know that 10 spheros, you with me? 10 spheros. And above the 10 spheros is what's called Keser. Keser is not part of the 10 spheros. In Keser, there is the lower part of Keser called Erech Anpin, and the higher part of Keser called Atik Yonim. Erech Anpin, which means translated as the long face, and the higher part of Keter, the more inner part of Keter, which is really one with the Ein Sof, is called Atik Yomin, the Ancient of Days. Atik Yomin, Ancient of Days. So we say like this: in every attribute is associated with a certain element that we can relate to from our soul, because we're created in the image. So Chachma Bina Das, for instance, we can understand what our Chachma is, what our Bina is. What's Keser? So Keser, the external part of Keser is associated with Ratzon, with will. The Pnimius of Keser is associated with Tainuk, pleasure. So God's pleasure is called Atik, Atiku. Shabbos, which is a day of pleasure, what do we say by all the meals? What is the Arizal Institute that we should say by all the meals? Askinu Sudasa. I'm preparing a table, and we say over there, Va'atika Kadisha. In every meal we mention Atika Kadisha, who's joining us for the meal. That means Atika. It means God's pleasure is being revealed. That's the idea of Atika Kadisha. In all. From which one of our forefathers is related to Atika Kadisha? Primarily Yitzchak. That's why Yitzchak is the time of delight. Where do we see that? Because we know that there's what comes from Atik, from that highest, deepest place. Dew comes from Atik. The Zohar, there's an expression called Tala denotif ma'atika, that there is dew that drips from Atik. Who is the one who blesses the blessing of dew? Yitzchak. Yitzchak tells Yaakov when he comes in, and we know that those were the highest blessings in the Torah. That's why there was such a skirmish, such a fight to get the blessings last week in the Torah portion between Yitzchak and Yaakov. They were fighting ferociously to get it. Yaakov had to deceive his brother. It can only come to him through deception. It wasn't simple. Because Yitzchak's blessings are higher than Avram's blessings. They're higher than Yaakov's blessings. They're higher than Moshe's blessings, the highest blessings in the Torah. Yitzchak's blessings. And what has he opened up his blessing? The Yitin Lecha Elokim, Mitala Shamayim, from the dew of the heaven. It's referring to the dew that comes from Atika. That's why Shabbos, so Shabbos is primarily Yitzchak's day. Because Shabbos is drawn, the dew that comes from Atika. This comes from Yitzchak. It says by the blessings of the Yitzchak leYaakov, from the dew of the heaven. Because Yitzchak. Now, you'll ask a question. Yitzchak is Gevura. What does Yitzchak have? Avram is Chesed, Yitzchak is Gevura. What does Yitzchak have to do with Keser? Keser is much higher than Chesed and Gevura. Keser doesn't have. The whole point of Keser is it doesn't have any spheros in it. It's not defined by any definitions. It's Ein Sof. Especially Atik. Atik Yoimin means, see, Erech Anpin, which is the lower part of Keser, even though there are no Chesed there or Gevura, but it's a source for Chesed and Gevura. That's why it's called the long face. On the one hand, it's long, it's Ein Sof, but on the other hand, it's already a face. There's at least already a shoirish for spheros. But Atik Yoimin means it's netak, it's removed from Yoimin are the spheros, from any kind of revelation. So there's no spheros there. So what's Yitzchak, whose Inyan is Gevura, what does he have to do with Atik? And the answer is, Yitzchak is not plain Gevura, he's Gevura is the Atik. He's the Gevura from the level of Atik. In Atik. How can you say Gevura in Atik? If Atik Yoimen means it's Netak from Gevura, so what does Chassidus say? It's a Shirish Lishirish, it's a Makar to a Makar. And obviously it explains at great length how it's different, why it's not really called the source. But still. So that's the Shirish. Ki Yitzchak u Gevura is the Atik Yoim, and Yitzchak is the Gevuras of Atik. Ha-mislabish b'moyach stima, that's too much to explain tonight, that encloses itself in the moyach stima, in the chachma that's in Keser, chachma of Erech Anpin, shu b'chinas tala de bedulcha. That's a concept it speaks about in Zohar, it's the crystal dew. V'zeu, that's very, very high. And that's why Yitzchak is associated with this internal deep pleasure. And Shabbos this is revealed. V'zeu, and this is so high, Heramaisa. This level is so high, the Gilui of Shabbos, the Gilui of Yitzchak, the revelation is so high. It's far transcending the Yud Kei Vav Kei, the Tetragrammaton. Because we know that the Yud Kei Vav Kei is associated with what? With the 10 spheres. Yud is Chachma, Hey is Bina. Well, this is beyond it. So what does Yaakov Avinu say? When Yaakov is davening that he wants to return to his father's house. He says, V'shafti b'shalom el beis avi. I will return in peace to my father's house, which means I'll return to Yitzchak. I'll return to the Shabbos experience unharmed. Quite on the contrary, b'shalom. I will bring and have made peace between all the parts of the world that I got involved with to convert them. That's what he did. He took Lavan's sheep, that were Lavan's sheep, and he made them into his sheep, sheep of holiness. He took Lavan's daughters. Lavan is screaming later in the parsha, you thief, you robbed me from everything. And Ravan says, your daughter, Habanois benoisai, the girls are mine, your daughters are mine. Va'abanim and my they're mine. And the sheep is mine. You've taken everything from me, it's all mine. But that's what the Jew's job in this world is, to take everything from the whole world and make it godly. Not to rob the world, but to take it and make it holy. Make it Kedusha. So that means making peace, taking the world, making peace. So when Yaakov comes back, V'shafti b'shalom el beis avi. What's beis avi? Beis avi is the atik, the gevura, the intense experience of delight. That's gevura the atik, the experience of godly pleasure and delight that the Eibishter feels when Mashiach comes. And that revelation is so high, much deeper than Yud Kei Vav Kei. What does he say a minute later? V'haya Hashem li lelokim. What does it mean? V'haya Hashem li lelokim. Simply means God will be my God. What's the deeper meaning? I will be so high when I'm in my Father's house. I will be so high that Havaya, which is Ein Sof, is going to be considered Elokim, which is small, constricted. In other words, since I'm going to be connected to a level beyond... See, today's day is like this. We receive from the name of Elokim, Moichem de Katnus, very, very constricted. We know that in the higher worlds, there is Gilui of Havaya. That's where it's... Havaya is Ein Sof. Haya, Hoy, V'viyah, time, past, present, and future. So Elokim is constriction, Havaya. But to the level of Atika, for the level of Atik Yomen is just so high, which is the level of Yitzchak, Beis Avi, is so high, that even Havaya is considered Elokim. Because Havaya too is letters. It's Yud, Kei, Vav, Kei, Spherois, attributes. Compared to Keser, the Spherois of Atzilus are very constricted. To us, Atzilus is Beli Gvul, is Ein Sof. But to Keser, all the Sphirot are all child's play. They're all nothing. So that's what he's saying. V'hoya havaya lila. I'm going to transcend havaya. Kamosha Kasav, like it says. Oz tisaneg. What do we say on Shabbos? Al Hashem. On, above. Al means above. Al havaya. On a level above Yud Kei Vav Kei. L'mayla Hashem havaya. Higher than Shem havaya. V'gam nikra Shabbos lehavaya. Which I'm not sure what he wants by that. It means either Shabbos Lavaya means Shabbos, that Havaya stops, is Shavas, it ends, because it's a Gilui higher than Havaya, or that Havaya itself returns. I'm not exactly sure what he means by this. Now, in order to be able to change so quickly, now realize, Mela, when it's going to happen after Mashiach comes, it's also going to be awesome. It's going to be unbelievable that us, who enjoy pizza, and all the other stuff that is so exciting to us. For us to be able to turn and start becoming so unified with the Eibishter's infinite pleasure, and it should happen overnight, which might happen any day. It just might happen, for sure is going to happen. It's like, wow, that transition is crazy. But at least we've been working 6,000 years. But for this to happen after every week, we go from the lowest of the low during the week, and suddenly we're whisked up to the high. We're whisked up not only into godliness of the spiritual worlds, we go up to Atzilus, we go higher than Atzilus, we go higher than Yud Kei Vav Kei Os Tesanei Galavaya. How does a Jew go up from so low to so high? So in order to have this Shalom, Amata L'mayla L'mayla Kol Kach, Hu Ayidei B'china Shalom. That's the magic of Shabbos, which has the power of peace. HaMechaber Shnei Ofeichem, that's the ability of making peace. What's peace? Peace combines two opposites. The point of the greatest godly concealment on 1 minute, and a minute later, greatest godly revelation. Inyan, that's why Friday night, what do we say? But how do we do that? Because we converted the lowest of the low to the highest of the high. The moment we take the lowest of the low and use it for godliness, and we turn it around, we reveal the highest of the high, which is the Eibishter's pleasure and delight that he gets. Like remember we said about the parrot. We get the laughter. Let me ask you, the king's laughter, which represents the pneumistic pleasure of the king, what does that have to do with a parrot? The parrot is so far from it. Even people are far from the king's inner world. And how far is a parrot? But still, the parrot evokes it. So the moment we take the lowest of the low and convert it to godly, we reveal the Pnimius Atayna, which reveals itself on Shabbos, but it's stimulated in the week. Oh, so that's the ultimate peace, the ultimate chibur of what is tachtoin, the lowest of the low with the highest of the high. Inyan Shalom Aleichem. That's why we say Shalom Aleichem, peace on you on Shabbos, because we just now accomplished the greatest peace. Sha'oimrim Belayla, the Shabbos Kodesh. Right when we're entering into that, and now why dafka before the meal? Because the meal of Shabbos is the time of the Hizgalus of the divine pleasure. That's why we're supposed to have gefilte fish and everything else that is pleasurable on Shabbos. All the pleasure, it's not meant to be physical pleasure. It's meant to be pleasure in God, in the Eibishter, the Tainug Elyon. That's what it is. It materializes in the physical food. Why? Because the physical became a keli for the spiritual. So in your food is enclosed atika, Pnimius Atik, in the physical food on Shabbos. Unbelievable, it's crazy. But that's what it is. Shalom Aleichem. And there's an ultimate harmony between the lowest of the low and the highest of the high. But we say it dafka by the meal, but the night of Shabbos. What? So good, that's our piece. What does that have to do with angels? Come on, and the reason it has to do with the angels is Torah or Parshas Vayeshev, as it states in Torah or Parshas Vayeshev. But the Ramaschal Koi Omar Mahalchem, Hashem says, "V'nasati lecha Mahalchem, I will make you into walkers between these standing beings." So there he explains that the Malachim are called standing beings, stationary beings, because their avoda keeps them in one place. They're stagnant. Even though they grow, the Malachim, but their growing is all in a very angels, even though they grow in their connection to God, but it's in a very step-by-step, gradual ascent, and therefore they're considered stationary beings, standing beings. They're not really considered movements. An example to that. A good teacher, that's a kindergarten teacher, Rabbi Chapnik, for instance, and he's teaching the boys, the Aleph Beis, he can tell you exactly what the kid is going to look like in 8th grade. He's been there, he knows, he's seen them. So he can see. I know this kid is quick, grasping, boom, boom, boom. I mean, most of the time, not saying. And he knows, well, he'll get to 8th grade, he'll be able to get Gemara the same way he gets the Aleph. He's just building steps. That's called gradual ascent. You go through from 1st grade to 2nd grade, and in a sense, you can already predict. But then there is a chiddush. There's someone who, like, you couldn't believe it, and suddenly something happened, a total turnaround, and he's like, come back. It's a Baal Tshuva. It's like a total new thing. You can't. That kind of wild, complete transformation is not shaykh by the malachim, by the angels. Only souls are able to make jumps and leaps Go from the lowest to the low to the highest to the high. Only neshamas. But it says in that Maimer, that's what it means. I will make you as mahalchim, as goers, bein ha'oimdim, between those who stand. But it says in that Maimer, it says an interesting thing. Even though the neshama's souls are much higher than angels, but still we receive, since we're in bodies, and angels are not in bodies, or even if they are in bodies, their bodies are very, very refined. They're not coarse bodies. So therefore, they have a certain spiritual capacity that we don't have. Or I should say rather a more elevated consciousness, a much higher elevated consciousness. And they assist us. How do they assist us? So he says, "Shemetchila makavlim nishmas Yisroel hakoyach memalachim." The souls, the Jewish neshamas, receive their empowerment from the angels. Levarer hanefesh habahamis, to fix the animal soul. What does that mean? I'll share with you an interesting thing. In davening, we spend a good portion of the davening every day, daily prayer. In after Baruch Hu, we speak about the way the angels praise Hashem. Talking about all the angels, the whole part of that before the Shema, that whole part is talking about the angels. And the question is, I mean, it's nice that the angels praise and sing God. What does it do with us? Like, why are we talking about their song? So it's explained like this. Part of our avoda is not just that our soul should cleave to God, but that our body should also cleave to God. And to get our body to cleave to God, we have to convince the operator of the body. Okay? The one the chauffeur who drives the body around. Okay, you have the soul, but who's the operator of the body, the engine of the body? That's our animal soul. Our animal soul is not interested in anything that the soul is interested in. The animal soul is interested in having a good time. Let's party. That's all the animal soul wants. It wants whatever it can. It wants physical pleasures and enjoyments, physical prestige, honor, recognition, power, money, good food, good time, good partying. That's all it wants. It ain't interested in cleaving to God and spiritual. It doesn't care about it. So now you have to get it. You get the animal soul on board. Now, getting the animal soul on board doesn't only mean silencing the animal soul. Doesn't mean that whenever it has a negative urge, desire, and it wants to go out of whack and drive the body into a suicidal activity to get the body to do something really dangerous and bad, so you harness it, you stop it. Because then, all you did was you shushed it. You didn't change it. That's not the point. It's like a teacher who has a kid in the class who's a massive troublemaker. So there's one level of teacher who's able to take control and silence that kid, put him in his place. No other teacher is able to do it. This is a master teacher, puts that kid in space, he neutralizes that boy and keeps him quiet, and the kid behaves. It's a real accomplishment. All the other kids in the class can learn. But for this kid, you didn't do anything. All you did was you kind of suppressed them, and that's it. The ultimate teacher is the one who can somehow get this kid who is totally all over the place, totally not interested in any kind of learning and so on and so forth, and somehow find a way to get this kid interested in the studies and put him on the path of development and growth. That's the job. So our job is to get our animal soul rectified and elevated. Problem is, if our animal soul has zero interest in spiritual matters, you're trying to, it's like trying to sell burritos to an Eskimo. Eskimos don't eat burritos. They don't know what that is. The animal soul, that's a good one. I never thought of that one. Burritos to an Eskimo? Okay. In any case, so how do you do that? How do you do that with the animal soul? And the answer is by tracing this is Gavaldic, by tracing the animal soul to its source. See, our godly soul, we know, has a very, very high spiritual source. But our animal soul is also has a nice yichus. It doesn't have the same yichus like the neshama that's a part of God from above. Our animal soul is a spirit. It's an animal. And you know where it comes from? You know what its grandfather is? A great spiritual grandfather? Are the spiritual angels above that are called the supernal beasts, the supernal animals. Supernal beasts, the supernal beasts. Because we know in the chariot there's a face of an ox, a face of a lion. Now, even though we're talking about two different lions and two different animals, we're talking about the Malachim, we talk about Malach Michael, Malach Gavriel, lion, ox. These are souls that are burning up for God. How in the world does it have a relationship to our animal soul? The answer is the reason why the angels are called animals, even though they're very sophisticated beings, is because primarily they function on instinct. They're instinctive beings. Their instincts are all holy. So whatever they do is instinctive, like animals are also. Humans are reflective. We act based on, we appreciate, we understand, and then we make a decision on what's the right way to act. But an animal acts it by instinct. Angels above are instinctively holy. That's their natural instinct. So, but here's the thing. When the angels above descend from world to world, from level to level, they remain with the same instinct. And what's the instinct? To be drawn intensely to what? To that which is good. Up there, it's clear that God is good, so they're instinctively godly. When the worlds get darker and darker and darker, and you still have this instinctive being that gravitates to what's good, when it gets denser and denser and denser, and then cheesecake starts looking good instead of God, so then the same instinctive behavior goes to the cheesecake. So when you want to get your animal soul back on track, you have to help your animal soul appreciate that its real instinctive connection towards all these physical pleasures, it's really rooted in the instinct of its great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandfather up there that is instinctively pulling towards holiness and godliness. Now, this is not so much a calculation more than it is a natural effect. When we think about the avodah, we meditate on the avodah of the malachim, it somehow impacts our animal soul to be able to come on board as well. That's what it means that the malachim help us in our job in making peace in the world. See, making peace in the world, making this world connected to God, begins with making yourself connected to God. You can't fix the world until you fix yourself. So first you got to work on your own animal soul, on each and every one of us. How do we fix our animal soul? We need to derive the energy from the angels above, from their service, from their love to God. We can bring it down to our animal soul that it too should love Hashem and change it and rectify. That's the reason why the angels are called those who assist us in making peace. Because they assisted us in making peace, so we have to give them a blessing on Friday night for their assistance. In Shalom, we give Shalom back to them. So that's what he's saying. In the beginning, the souls of the Jewish people receive the power from the angels, to rectify the animal soul, because the root and the source of excavation of the animal soul is from the holy beasts of the chariot. But here's the thing. Angels, because their service to God is instinctive, they have no connection to what? They're not the parrot. They don't have that ability to make God laugh. So therefore, those angels are what? They're very, very holy, but they remain kind of stuck in their world. What do? Because we, however, since we have the battle and the conflict, and we take dark things and we convert it to holiness, so then we have an infinite elevation, so we empower the angels also to come along for the ride. So, hey mashpiyim b'malachim, they give the malachim also, shenikra oimdim, liyos hashpos b'chinas hiluch. That's what it means. They make the malachim also be mahalchim. That's the meaning of an asata l'cha mahalchim beina oimdim e'elu. Doesn't only mean I will make you neshamis be mahalchim. No, you neshamis will make the angels who assisted you to be the mahalchim beina oimdim e'elu. That the angels will be mahalchim, will be movers amongst those that are really on their own, they're stationary beings. B'pchinas pinimius, to cause them to be elevated. The hamalachim bein malmata lamayla, bein malmayla lamata. Whether the power to go infinite or up or down, it's all coming from the neshamis. Ayin sham. V'zehu sha'oimrim shalom aleichem lahamalachim. That's why we say Shalom Aleichem to the angels. Shemamshichem behem, we draw into them hahiluch, the movement. Shazeu ayadei b'china shalom. This too is through shalom. In other words, this is through the shalom that we've accomplished. V'gam al yadei zeh hamalachim choizrim v'noisnim. Once we now gave the malachim a tremendous boost, then what are they going to do? They're going to be more empowered to help us out next week. Shabbos, we're the big movers and shakers. Because Shabbos, we're released from our entrapment and we soar up infinitely. And we even bring the angels with us. But in the weekdays, we shrink to become tiny little ants back in this world. And now we suddenly need the angels again to help us out. So that's what happens. So now, Levar nefesh Bahamas. Now the angels then give koach to us, and that's the meaning. Barchuni l'shalom. We're asking the angels, bless us to peace. Give us the ability for next week to do the avodah in the next week's job to bring peace and harmonize the world with Hashem. V'zeu barchenu l'shalom malachei hashalom. Okay. So till here the Maimer is easy. Now the Maimer becomes completely cryptic. Meanwhile, let's take a break and let's see if we're going to go where far we're going to go. There's really amazing stuff, but it's very cryptic. So we'll see. We'll see what's going to happen. First, we're going to go eat some cake. 7-layer cake. L'chaim. That's why we're going to see soon that he learns a whole complete different pirush. That these malachim, I'll tell you right now, these malachim that assist us during the week, they're called malachei asharis. What we're inviting now in is a whole new level of malachim. Bayachem l'shalom, malachei ashalom. These are malachim that help us in our avodah of shalom on Shabbos, which is a whole different avodah during the weekday. They're also assisting us, but the malachim, and they're not called malachei hasharis, they're called malachei. And the bracha that we get from them, barchenu l'shalom, is not for the weekday. Even though he mentions here, but then it's for the avodah of Shabbos. But through their bracha that they give us, their megal and the shamas really are always higher than the malachim. They help us activate a certain nekuda inside of us that's deeper than the malachim, and then we bless them back, and that's teischem l'shalom. That's us giving the malachim back an empowerment from the shorish of neshamas, which is higher than the angels. That's basically the idea that he's going to explain. Oh, so first of all, next week, Thursday, I'm not going to be here. So know that. Next week, Thursday, there was no class. And, not Thursday day and not Thursday night. Okay, let's see. Maybe we're going to continue. Maybe. I'm so tired.
more complicated for you, then maybe just take this as a, then maybe say, never mind, and we'll see later on. But I would like to make it work. And yeah, if I do end up running the whole event, then 400 sounds fantastic. That sounds great. And again, you'll just let me know what you want me to do. Okay, bye.
Hi. Okay, Malachim Anel, Nekim Malachim Shalei. Me Inyan Malachim Davima. I would imagine so. Okay, let's try a little more. I'm not guarantee how much we're going to do, but let's see. It's a little. V'ayin me'inyan malachi hashalom. Now, the malachim switch, as I said earlier, in the first stanza they're called malachi hashares, and then they're changed and they're called malachi hashalom. So look, Bezoar, Bezoar, Shin Pei Vayera. I don't know what that means. Shin Pei. Soif Devra Maschel Vayevoyu Elamakim. That Zohar I didn't look up, but the next Zohar, Parsha Shemois Devra Maschel Vayevoyu Elamoi. Over there it says that Malachim, that it speaks about Malachi Hashalom, and the Zohar asks, is there any Malachim that are not peaceful angels? So the Zohar says, yeah. There are angels that are troublemakers, the Zohar says. But the angels that are angels of peace are Morei de Rachmanusa. They are angels of Rachamim, of mercy. Ve'inun Malachi Shalom, and they're called Malachim of peace. Fine. Daf Yud Ches Amid Aleph, V'Kosef Sham, and it says over there, Nun Beis. So I'm not sure. I was also trying to figure out, or is this means Nichtav Betzida? I don't know. Malachi Abba Ve'ima. The Malachim that are called Malachi Shalom are the Malachim that are the angels that stem from Abba Ve'ima, from father and mother. The idea that we're going to encounter now is an idea as follows. And we know that above in the spheroids are two primary yichudim. There's one yichud called yichud ava, and there's another yichud called yichud zun. Both of them are a yichud, a unification between male and female. Obviously not in any kind of physical idea. but in a very, very abstract, infinitely abstract. Yet there's a difference between the yichud of zuchra v'nukva means the yichud, the unification between the 6 emotions and malchus. Malchus is female, is nukva. And the yichud avah means the yichud of chachma and bina. And I mentioned to you earlier that chachma and bina, their yichud is constant. And zuchra v'nukva, their yichud is not constant. Okay. So malachi hashares, as we're going to see, those are the lower malachim that are now. When there is a yichud, when there is a zivug, when there is a yichud, it creates offspring, just like from a intimacy in the physical, it creates children. So when there's a yichud between the energies above, the sphirot above, it brings about creations, angels, and souls. So it says like this: from the 2 levels of yichudim comes different levels of angels. The malachim that are created from the yichud, from the zivug of chachma and bina, are very, very, very spiritual, those angels. Very refined. The malachim that are created, and they're called malachi hashalom. The malachim that are created from the zivug of zuchra v'nukva, on the lower level, they're called malachi hasharis. Now in general, we, neshamas, that come into bodies, most of us are called neshamas that are created from the zivug of zuchra v'nukva, from zun, the lower zivug. That's why we inhabit chitzonius olamos. We live inside the world, the material world, physical world. We're enclosed in bodies. Then there are neshamas, and we're impacted by the world. We're impacted by the world, and we have ups and downs. The world and the material, the gashmistic world, that provides, creates, or is a concealment for us. The Ar Neshamas of tzaddikim, that their neshamas come from the yichud of chachma and bina, and they're not a yichud of zuchra v'nukva, just for yichud of chachma and bina. Those neshamas are in a very, very, very spiritual state. Those neshamas, even when they come down in physical bodies, in order for them to come down into the world, into the creation, they have to go through the Ze'er Anpin, the Zuchra, and the Nukva, because that's the channel down into creation, but they just pass through it. They're not affected by it. Therefore, they retain and they remain in their sublime spiritual state, and that's why they're able to go up to the higher worlds whenever they want. They pass back up, because they're not like Rabbi Shmuel Kohen Gadol. They went up there and asked questions and so on. Rabbi Akiva, which they said about him, Leis Dein Barnash, he's not a human. He's able to go, Shama the Baal Shem Tov. He's climbing through all the spiritual worlds. He goes into the Heichal HaMashiach. Oh, when he's alive. They're not stuck in the bodies. Their bodies are just, they take it off whenever they want. They put it on whenever they want. The Arizal, these very, very super souls. They were in such a state of pure, their neshamas of Ava, coming from Chachma Bin. We'll soon see why. The neshamas of Zuchra v'Nukva and Malachim, which Malachim, the lower Malachim, Malachi Asharis, are impacted. They come from the Yichud of Zuchra Nukva. And that's why they're far more part of the world. Let me just explain that for a moment. What does these 2 zivugim mean? The Yichud of Chachma and Bina, the Yichud. And why is one constant and one is not constant? Zuchra v'Nukva is like this. Nukva, Malchus is speech, Dibur. And the male, Zuchra, is emotion. Emotion. The emotions, the 6 emotions. And usually what do? When a person takes their emotions, their excitement, whatever it is, and you convey those emotions in speech, when you speak words of love, or when you speak angry words, or whatever kind of words, you're taking there's a zivug happening of the emotions, of the male emotions, are now pouring into the female letters. And that's the unification. Malchus and Zeirab. But we know it's not always the case, because we're not always talking. A person can talk, a person cannot talk. And a lot of times your speech, two things. Malchus can exist without the hashpah from Zeir Anpin, and the Zeir Anpin can exist without being mashpiyat to Malchus. Each one can exist expandedly. Let's see that in a human being. In a human being, you can have emotions which you don't express in speech. Usually, the more excited you are, it will channel. You talk about it. That's the way it is. But you don't have to. Quite on the contrary, when you have a negative emotion, when a person is experiencing anger or something, it's better not to talk about it. You talk about it, what happens? It intensifies. You get even angrier. You get all worked up. Don't talk about it. You calm the emotion down. So the emotions on their own can exist without a female, without a letter. It has its own energy. It's independent. The same as also words. Words can be, for example, sometimes you're speaking words of intelligence, chachma, but there's no emotions there. Just pure, dry intellect. So there's no zuchra, there's no male in there. Or you can speak stam shtusim. Shtusim means shtuyot. Silliness, there's no content, no emotion, just plain narishka. The speech can exist without the emotion flow in it. Right? Now, let's take a look for a moment. So we're going to apply it up there. Now, what does it mean, a yichud abba ve'ima chachma and bina? As we mentioned earlier. Chachma is the flash of an idea. See, if bichlal, chachma and bina exists in the inner world of the human being. Chachma and bina are called hanestoros, the hidden part. Chachma and bina are both in the inside world of the human being. Zuchra and nukva are more the outside world of the human being. Emotion, first of all, even emotion. Emotion takes place inside a person. But emotions is about the outside. All right? If you're loving someone other than yourself. If you're feeling anger, it's about something outside of you. Okay? So the emotions and the are lechatchila about the outside. Speech is completely outside. You totally don't speak unless you're speaking to someone. Speech is meant to be a communicator or means of reaching out. Chachma and bina is both for the internal, inner world of the human being. Intellect. It doesn't need people, quite on the contrary. It thrives without people. It does better without people. When you're alone, yourself, you can think. That's why people that are more intellectual people tend to be more lonely, or not lonely, but they don't care about it. They seem to be more stay for themselves. People that are very emotional people are far more social. They need people. Their entire energy is from others. Okay. But let's take a look a minute as the yichud of chachma and bina. The yichud of chachma and bina is that every flash, every first initial germ of a seed of an idea, the bina is to give it words, kelim. So in Chassidus it's called, the yichud of chachma and bina is called ayin and yesh. Chachma is called ayin. Why is it called ayin? Because chachma koyach ma. What is it? When you have a flash, what's a flash? It doesn't, it's very abstract, it's very not concrete, it's very up there, it's very fleeting, so it's called nothingness. When you take the idea and you anchor it down and you develop it, how it applies to this and how it applies to that and how it applies, you're structuring it, so then you're creating it, you're giving it meat and flesh. You're giving it far more of substance. That's why bina is called yesh. These two have to always be together, because if you have a chachma, I mentioned this earlier, if I have a chachma and I don't take it into the bina, the chachma disappears. It doesn't have, since it's an energy without a vessel, it will go back into the pre-conscious nothingness. Same as also, as we said before, bina without a content is since the whole bina is understanding for yourself, to understand something, if there's no point, then rambling is just rambling. What's rambling? It's just rambling. It's nothing there. Kalim without a ur. So it needs the ur to be inside of it, or else the bina just dissolves. So they both need each other, and that's the meaning, is that they're today and the loy misparsh, and they never separate. Now, applying that to the divine, the yichud of zuchra v'nukva means that God's emotions are flowing into divine speech, and as a result of that, into creation. That kind of a unity is for the sake of the creation of the world. It doesn't happen only, and it's also called ayin and yesh. Because what? Speech and the consequential world is yesh, is created to be something. Elokus, which is the emotions, they're still ayin, nothingness compared, because Ein Sof, it's a yichud of ayin. Both, what I'm saying is that both yichudim of both Abba and Ima, father and mother, Ava, Chachma and Bina, and Ze'er Anpin and Malchus are both a yichud of ayin and yesh. But here's the idea: in the yichud of Zuchra v'Nukva, the yesh can exist without the ayin. When there is a zivug between the yesh and the ayin, then the words, you don't hear the words because the words become completely dissolved in the emotion that's pouring. The content of the emotion overpowers the words, where you're not even sensing the word. You can hear the message, power. When the words are messageless, then you hear the words. The chunkiness, the yeshus of the words is much stronger if it's not connected to what? To the male aspect, to the flow of energy, to the emotion. Just hear the words. So when there is a zivug between the ayin and the yesh, then what happens to the yesh? What happens to the yesh? The yesh is in a state of bittul. The yesh surrenders to the ayin. It senses the ayin. That's a chibur of ayin and yesh. And the world, which are created from the dibur, from the speech, sense the divine message that's in the words, and they're not so yeshus, they're not so beingness, they have more bittul. But we know that that's not always the case. Because there are times when what? When the yesh and the ayin are not connected, when there's no zivug between malchus and the higher spheres. You have a creation of just words that God has spoken, but no content, no godly content flowing, or at least from the perspective of the creations, there's no godly content. So what do they sense? They sense just the chunkiness of their own existence, and they become so what? Then all of creation starts becoming what? Very self-centered, self-aware, and the world becomes fragmented, disconnected, whatever, disjointed, a messy world. More like we spoke earlier, nichar groini, right, when it's dry. Usually when a person speaks and there's no emotion, then you get hoarse. Usually the moisture creates when there is an excitement, passion. The higher yichud, we spoke earlier, the yichud of Chachma and Bina is something that's constant, and it's something that's private, which means it's needed for yourself, not for the outside. So here's the idea. Our avodah during the week, as we said before, is to go down into a world where the worlds are separated from Elokus, at odds with the Eibishter, and our avodah is to make peace in a place where there is conflict. So who are the ones who can go down to it and actually live in this conflict and repair it? The neshamas. But in order for us to be in that reality, our existence comes from the yichud of Zah and Malchus. And what is our avodah? To take the godliness. We're shluchim. We're created from this yichud of Zuchra and Nukva, where the two are unified, and we're here to translate that unification into the world, to bring the hashpah, the flow of the ayin and the yesh, to keep them together during the week. And we get assistance from who? From the malachim. Which malachim? The lower malachim. The malachim that come from Zuchra and Nukva, and therefore their avodah is to keep this yichud together. What happens on Shabbos? On Shabbos, we ascend from a world that is separated from Elokus, from Gedlach, from a world that is. What happens to Shabbos Aliyah Sa'ilomais? Everything rises. That means. I just want to say something. The Art Tzadikim, for one moment. What happens when a neshama comes down into this world who's not from the yichud of Zah and Malchus, which means the neshama comes from the yichud of Abba ve'ima, and Abba ve'ima is where the ayin and the yesh are always joined together. So this neshama by him, there's no conflict, there's no dichotomy, there's never a situation where there is a world separated from its source, from the flow of energy, from the ayin, from the nothingness, from the supernal nothingness. It doesn't exist in this soul. That's why those neshamas, when they come into this world, to them, there's no such a thing as getting lost in Gashmias. No such a thing as Gashmias, like carrying them away into their yeshus. To them, every physical thing is only its godly content. Because they're always mechuber, because they're living in the consciousness of Abba and Ima, which are always joined. See, the neshamas that are stemming from Abba and Ima live in a state of, it's not possible for them, for the ayin to not be connected to the yesh, for the nothingness, the primordial nothingness of God, not to be connected to the yesh. Yesh means the somethingness, the concreteness of existence. So to them, it's always attached. But they're above the conflict. They're not in the conflict, because they're above it. They almost don't have a Yetzirah, that's the idea. The rest of us that live in normalcy and a world of temptation and so on and so forth, there is a disconnect. Our avodah is through the struggle that we struggle to unify the two. On Shabbos, we all rise to Atzilus. And we all rise to a place beyond the conflict, beyond the Yom Shekulei Shabbos, as we said earlier. The world, in a sense, is already at peace with God. The ayin and the yesh are already connected. What's our avodah on Shabbos? To achieve a higher connection of unity between the yichud of Chachma and Bina. For that, we have higher malachim called malachi hashalim. They're here to infuse and to enhance this avodah of unification. Here's the thing. The unification, it's not anymore a state where you're dealing with Alma de Pruda, a world of totally separation. That's only when you're living below Malchus, in a world that becomes severed and disconnected. Over there's real avodah of connecting, and it's possible there are moments and hours and maybe days of disconnect, chas v'shalom. And we have to constantly work on joining together. In the Shabbos world, we're connected all the time. But in that world of connection, there is an enhanced yichud of Chachma and Bina, where the Chachma should permeate. It's always connecting, but we want it to be deeper and stronger and more. So you have Malachim, which are derivatives from this yichud, and they bring to the neshamas, which are really lower neshamas, to help them into the full Shabbos experience of the higher yichud. And they're not called Malachi Ashares, they're called Malachi Hashalem. Because Malachim that Abba and Ima are called Shalom because they're always unified. In Zah and Malchus, there's not always Shalom. They're like a couple that needs to have Shalom bias. We say Vashrava Shalom, bringing peace, Bein Ish LeIshta, is referring to a place where it's possible for them not to have peace. So between Zah and Malchus, it's possible that there is a Shalom bias issue. They're not always getting along. We have to create peace. We have Shalom. We have to bring peace between them. Because the Yesh, they're not always into each other. The Malchus sometimes drifts away from and becomes separated. The worlds deriving from Malchus become very, very, very disconnected from God. And the Yeshus becomes really strong. So he's going to explain like this. Malchus is called Melech, but it's not called Melech HaSholem. Because in Malchus there's not always peace. In Bina, which Bina is a derivative from Chachma, is also called Melech, but Bina is called Melech Shahasholem Shaloi. Shlomo HaMelech is called Melech Shahasholem Shaloi. It's a difference between David HaMelech and Shlomo HaMelech. David HaMelech is the concept of Malchus. That's why David HaMelech had a lot of wars. He was fighting with the world. The world wasn't completely. In the days of Shlomo HaMelech, Melech Shahasholem Shaloi, peace was to him. Everything was synchronized with holiness, with God. There was no war. Everything was at peace. So Bina is called the Melech Shashalem Shaloi because she's always connected. There's not Shayach and Bina, Yesh without an Ayin. It's always in a state of Bittul. These Malachim that are coming from Bina are called Malachei HaShalom. They're created from the Yichud of Chachma and Bina, which is constant. And they're Malachim of Shalom. And they're helping the Neshamas. Which Neshamas? The neshamas that are really created from Zah and Malchus and therefore are not programmed, they're not wired for this yichud to live constantly in that bittul. They're programmed to live moments of conceal, moments of surrender, and moments of forgetfulness. It's like from all of us. We have these moments in which we're godly conscious, and moments that we get distracted and we become completely forgetful that God runs the world. We get angry, we get upset, we get nervous, we get anxious, we get very egotistical, and we forget. So we go in this because we're stemming from a place where there could be separation between the mashpia and the makabel, between the ayin and the yesh. So when we're entering into Shabbos, which is a no conflict zone. Shabbos, one of the reasons we like the Shabbos candles, which are superior to Hanukkah candles, because they're Shalom bias. Shabbos is a time of peace. There's no fighting on Shabbos between husband and wife. There's no disconnect between. They have to be unified. So we need the Malachim to help us into the state of unity. That's going to be the avodah of Shabbos, which is a higher avodah. So now, based on this, we should be able to understand a little bit what he says over here. So Malachei Shalom, Malachei Abba v'Ima. They're called the Malachim of Abba v'Ima. Parshas Pekudei daf reish mem hey yom beis. V'ayim asher kasav ha'pasuk yivarechecha. They give you a bracha. What's their bracha? It says v'yasem l'cha shalom shenoisen b'cha koyach. That the Inyan is to give shalom means to give you the koyach liyas v'rav shalom banayach. To be that in banayach there should be rav shalom, a lot of peace. We'll see in a minute. V'ayim asher kasav is ha'pasuk v'chol banayach. Gam this bar sham to shalom liyas yechuda tatav yechuda yilah shavin, the lower unity and the higher unity, which means the yichud that there is in Atzilus, which is the higher unity, and the yichud that there is in the lower world should be completely unified, like we say in Kegavna. What do we say in Kegavna? Kegavna the inun misyachten li'ela, just like there is unity up there. Kach iyu misyachtes lamata, there is a yichud down here below. Ubevadei dezeh shaykh lubchene Shabbos. That's the state of Shabbos. Okay. The Inyan, the Malachim Shema Abba ve'Ima Nikra Malachei HaShalom. So why are the Malachim that are called from Abba and Ima, from Chachma and Bina, called Shalom? Why? Ki Abba ve'Ima, because father and mother, Hem Terein Reyan, these are two friends, the Loi Misparshin, that never get separated. And what does that mean? V'hu bittul yesh la'ayin tamid. In Atzilus, in that inner world, the ayin and the yesh are always unified. The yesh because Bina is considered yesh compared to Chachma, but it's always nullified to the point, which is the Ein Sof. Bina is a whole structured world of godliness and all the details, but it all recognizes constantly that its entire power and energy is all coming from a place that is undefined with any definitions. It's pure, simple light. That's the power of Chachma. And Chachma is always infusing that, and Bina is always conscious of it. V'zeh inyan melech sha'shalom shaloi. The level of Bina is the level of melech that peace is to him. Ki bepchinas ma, in contrast to what? Ki bepchinas malchus, because the level of malchus shanasa makar libiyah. Malchus becomes the source for the three lower worlds. What are the three lower worlds? Bria, Yetzir, and Asiya, which includes what? The worlds of Klippas and all that. Yashinuyim, there are changes. Shalopa'amim ayesh davar nifrad. Sometimes the worlds become separated, they become distinct and something onto their own, and they're not surrendered to God. And in that sense, the world's a little bit more rebellious towards Hashem. And sometimes they're unified. They're ups and downs, like we see in ourselves. We can see in our own life. There are days that we wake up and we're totally tuned into Hashem's will, and there are days that we're just feeling our stomach's desires, nothing to do with God. Ma'aseh ein came bebina, but on the level of Bina, and those neshamas that don't come from Malchus, you have to understand, there are neshamas that come from Bina, and therefore those neshamas, and Bina herself, what's Bina called? Nikragam came Melech, she's also called a king. Ach shahashalom shaloi, peace is to him. Tamid bitul ayash la'ayin. The bitul ayash is always. Va'alkein malachim hanal. These higher malachim that are created from the yichud of Chachma and Bina. Nikra malachei shalom. They're called malachei shalom. Va'ayin be'etz chayim sharman umad. Look at Eitz Chaim of the Arizal. Derush dalid me'inyan malachim da Abba ve'ima. From these higher malachim of Abba and Ima, where he explains that idea. V'ayim hashakasav al pi al zoyar pashas balak taf kuf tzadik al pasik baruchu. Me'inyan malachim, it says over there from the malachim, shehem zivug neshikim. It says in Kabbalah that there's two types of zivugim, two types of intimacies. One is a zivug of a kiss, and one is a physical yichud. Now obviously, the physical doesn't mean physical, because you're dealing in the most abstract spheros above. But compared to the zivug of the kiss is a breath to breath, which is more spiritual compared to the physical transmission of a physical intimacy. So it says like this. It says, Malachim come from the zivug neshikin, from a more spiritual, abstract kiss. And the souls, being that we have to come into bodies, so we have to be a little bit more chunkier. So our souls come into existence from a zivug gufni, from a more physical union. That's why he says over there that the angels are more ruchni. But it explains there's a big quality in the shamas over malachim. Because in the kiss, you're not giving yourself, you're only giving your breath, which is not yourself. But in that seminal drop that the father gives to the mother to create the child, is the entire essence of the father, because it's the father reproduces his entire being, your essence. Essence is dafka coming in the physical, it's not coming in the more spiritual. That's why the malachim don't have the essence of the Eibishter in them. But Jew, on the one hand, the Jewish neshama is coarser than an angel. Angels remain very ruchni, very, very, very spiritual. And neshamas become more physical, they get enclosed in bodies, and the fact that they can go into a body is because there is a little bit more of a density to them. But that's because they come from a zivug gufni. But on the other hand, the zivug gufni makes them less aware than the zivug ruchni. So, I once told the story how the Alter Rebbe was a student of the Maggid. The Alter Rebbe was a student of the Mezritcher Maggid. And in those days, the Maggid was the one who took over from the Baal Shem Tov. Most of the giants, Chassidic giants, went to the Maggid after the Baal Shem Tov passed away. But there were a few students of the Baal Shem Tov that were already older, and they had their own already Inyan, and they never really submitted themselves to the Maggid. They were friends of the Maggid, but not students of the Maggid. Reb Pinchas of Koretz was one of them, Reb Michal Zlotchever was one of them, and so forth. One time, Reb Michal Zlotchev used to come sometimes to visit his good friend, the Mizritcher Maggid, Reb Dave Bear. And when Reb Michal would come, he would come with his whole entourage of his own Chassidim. And Shabbos, he would have his own Shabbos. He would make his own Shabbos, even though he would visit the Maggid. But he would do his own because he had a very high spiritual avodah. The Magid would go hear Torah from Rabbi Michal. When Rabbi Michal would come to Mezrich for Shabbos, the Magid would go hear Torah from Rabbi Michal. So the Alter Rebbe was a student of the Magid, and he wasn't a student of Rabbi Michal, he was a student. And one time, he was there, Shabbos, the Rabbi Michal was there, and he saw the Magid go hear Torah from him. So he was very, very upset because he knew his teacher is the Rebbe. He's the ultimate Rebbe. And here the teacher goes to the Magid of the Magid of Zlochev, the Rabbi Michal of Zlochev. That means that Rabbi Michal of Zlochev is greater than him. That's what he's going to learn by him. So what am I doing by the second to the best? Why don't I go to the best? So he was very bothered by it. The whole Shabbos, he was very disturbed. And after Shabbos, he needed to go in, and he felt emergency that he must go into the Magid and ask him this question. That night, Reb Shlomo of Karlin was in charge of watching the Magid's door. Every day there was a different rotation, different student was in charge. So he went to Reb Shlomo and he said, let me in, I have to go emergency, I have to go see the Magid. Reb Shlomo said, the Magid instructed me that no one is coming in tonight. So he says, but you don't understand, it's negei b'nefesh, it's pekuach nefesh, I must go in. Shlomo said, I'm sorry, I have to listen on the Shomer, and I was told by the Rebbe that no one is coming in. He said, but you don't understand, it's a matter of life and death. He said, I'm sorry. What I could tell you is that by Chatzois, the Magid opens up his door, because it says in Zohar that at midnight, the gates of Gan Eden open up. So being that the Magid is down here, he runs everything that the way he is down here, the way it is up there. So just like in the supernal worlds, Gan Eden's doors open up at midnight. So the Magid too, his doors are open at midnight. So when the doors are open, you can go in on your own risk. So that's what the Alter Rebbe did, and it came midnight, he went in. When he came in unannounced to the Magid, he saw the Magid, and he basically, when he looked on the Magid, he saw that on him, he can literally see all the supernal partsufim. The parts of Malchus, the parts of the Zeir Anpin, the parts of Bina, the parts of Chachma, parts of Keser, higher and higher. He could see it all on the body of the Magid. And he basically had no doubt who the Rebbe is. He basically saw the entire, it's all on it. You have to be eyes to see that. The Alter Rebbe was able to see that. The Magid asked him, and he said, I don't have any doubts anymore, he said, but I still want to know, how come you're going to the Michal of Zlochev when obviously you're the Merkava? So why? So he said, the Magid answered him that his neshama of Reb Michal comes from the zivug of Neshikin, from the zivug of Neshikin, of the kiss, and my neshama comes from the zivug of Gufni, and therefore his Torah is more spiritual than mine. But on the other hand, the Magid's Torah has more the essence, because as I said earlier, the essence is more in the neshamas than there is in the malach. So the Alter Rebbe then knew that he's sticking to the Magid. Actually, the Reb Michal of Zlochev wanted to seduce the Alter Rebbe to him. The Reb Michal of Zlochever wanted to draw the Alter Rebbe's neshama to him to be his student. And he told him, I'm going to come to me, he says, I'm going to teach you the language of the birds, the language of the trees, the language of the angels, the language of, I'm going to teach you everything. And the Alter Rebbe asked him one question. Are you going to teach me Yechud Ilah and Yechud Tata? Are you going to teach me the higher unity and the lower unity? And he didn't tell him that yet. Obviously, he was not the master in that. So he said, then I stick with my Rebbe, with the Alter Rebbe, with the Magid, because with the Magid I learned the higher unity and the lower unity. In other words, sometimes you can get carried away in Kabbalah and all cool stuff. Kabbalah is so cool. You can get carried away in all the cool Kabbalistic stuff. But the question is, are you learning about the unity, which is really what it's all about? The Pnimius, the innermost, is God's unity. And the unity is this idea that we're learning today about the surrender, about unifying yourself, synchronizing yourself with God by fulfilling God's will. That's what it's all about. That's where it's at. But in any case, so it says over there, the malachim are more ruchni. V'sham nizbar. So in Zohar it says an interesting thing. That bracha, the malachim have. But kedusha they don't have. What do we mean? We know that the malachim can't say kaddish, kaddish, kaddish until we say kaddish, kaddish. We have to start. When we say kaddish, the malachim can say kaddish. They have to wait till we start say kaddish, or we say Shema Yisroel, we sing our shira, and then they can say kaddish. But Baruch they can say without us. As it says, Baruch Hu, David HaMelech says, Baruch Hu Hashem Malachav. May his Malachim. V'sham nizbar, the bracha is maser l'malachim. That bracha is given over to them. K'moy Yisroel, as it is given to the Jewish people. Jewish people have the ability to say Baruch, and the Malachim also have the power to make a bracha. By the Yidden it says, V'arvarcha me'varachecha, or Vayei bracha, it says, V'ayin sham. Since Malachim have the ability to bless, what does it mean to have ability to bless? Blessing means to channel. They can channel what they have to someone else. That the Malachim who are Malachei HaSholem, which means they have the yichud of Abba and Ima, they have this yichud, this unity of Chachma and Bina, of Ayin and Yesh, and they can, which is the special avodah on Shabbos, and they can give it to us, to those neshamas that come from the lower yichud, they can channel it to us. Shehem bechinas malachei Eloi. They are the higher malachim. The inun b'shmei meroim, the idrei Elah. In the Zohar it says these are the higher malachim from a higher place. Hanisker sham. That's there in the Zohar. L'chein makdimim abracha mehem. We get the blessing from them. Ayin sham. And l'chein oimrim zeh koydem kiddush. We say it before kiddush. Kamoisha kasher. Avol kadosh. But Kaddish, see, bracha also means, I'm saying something else. Bracha also means to draw, but to draw from something that's already within a vessel. Brecha is a pool, so you're drawing, like we say, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Kaddish is what is totally transcendent. Baruch is already what's already downloaded. It's in a keli. It's just that we need to draw it down. We need to download it further. Malachim, they're from a very high place. They come from Chachma and Bina, but only from what's in Chachma and what's in Bina. That ayin that's in Chachma, translated to Bina, they have it in them and they can project it onto us. But they can't do Kaddish, because what's Kaddish? Kaddish means what is transcendental completely, Ein Sof, what's outside of the system completely. The only ones who can reach that are neshamas who grapple with what? What did we say before? The parrot who makes the king laugh. That's the only ones who could reach the Ein Sof Tzchok Asali Aleichem. That's why we said earlier that the Malachim, we have to make them into movers. So Kaddish they can't take, Kiddush they can't make. Before Kiddush, and we send them away by Kiddush, they're not shaykh to them. But for the bracha before, we get an empowerment from them. Al v'Kaddish Adi Yisroel Mekacha Latata. Until the Yidden don't say Kedusha below, they can't even say Kaddish. Kaddish. Harei Ksiv, Harei B'chinas Kedusha Shaykh Li Yisroel Yoiser. Is shaykh more to the Jewish people. L'chein kiddush hu gam kein mebchinas ka. It makes sense because what did we say before? In a kiss, you're giving your ear, but you're not giving your essence. In this transmission, a more physical transmission, you're giving the essence, and that's the true kedusha is the essence. So Yidden, the neshamas have it more. Okay. Now, this Inyan B'chinas Yitzchak B'Shabbos, he's going back to what he said earlier, that Yitzchak, he's making like a little summary. In a Yitzchak B'Shabbos, Al Pi HaZohar Yisrei Daf Peiches, Shu Sudas Tinyana. According to the Zohar, Yitzchak's primarily power of Shabbos is mainly by the second meal, which is the daytime meal. That's the meal of Yitzchak. U'b'makam acher Al Pi HaIdra Zuta, according to the Idra, over there it says Mitzchan is bar shuzman mincha de Shabbos. It's the time of mincha de Shabbos. Ki Yitzchak tikin tfilas mincha. So it's an argument. There's two opinions. When is Yitzchak's time in Shabbos? Is it the second meal or the third meal? But from both these places is mashma that Yitzchak is the elevation to the highest source of Tainug. That was just goes back to where Yitzchak is from. Oid Yuvin Inyan. Now the next piece I don't understand, so I'm gonna. But I do understand some of it. So I don't understand anything, but maybe a little bit of something. Oid Inyan v'shafti b'shalom. Api ma shekasa b'Torah or Parshas told us that Tzchoik v'tainik the Yitzchak nimshach es Rivka. It says hine Yitzchak mitzachek es Rivka ishtai. It says Yitzchak is mitzachek with Rivka. So that means that the Tzchoik of Yitzchak. Now we're learning the whole time Tzchoik asali Aleichem. The main inyan that causes the tzchok, the laughter, is chashucha lenahura, darkness to light. When you convert darkness to light, and there's another inyan. Yitzchak mitzachek. What causes Yitzchak to laugh? Rivka ishtai. What's Rivka? So Rivka, according to Chassidus, the Altar's whole mimer, it's very geschmacka mimer, in Tarshas told us. Rivka is called Ravka Shel Bakar. A Ravka Shel Bakar is when you have a group of cattle that go out, and what they would do is when they would bring the cattle in for plowing, they would put a certain harness that would keep 3 or 4 cows together. And they would go out. I don't know whatever it's called. It's such a thing, and it holds the animals. The sages refer to that piece that holds the 4 animals together, or the 3 animals together, a Ravka. If Rivka is called a Ravka, that means, so what's that? What does Rivka have to do with that? So the idea is that Ravka represents the tikkun of the nefesh habahamis, which is primarily an emotional being. The emotions, again, I told you I don't understand this well right now, so I'm not going to go into it, but the emotions, when they're in an unrectified state, each emotion is onto its own. They're all fragmented. Ravka means that the emotions are paired together. 3, which represents Chesed, Gevurah, Teferes, are all unified. And that can only come when they're in a state of bittul to their source. Their bittul to their source can take opposite emotions and unify them. And that removes all conflict that there is in a human person's life. That hiskalolus and that achdus causes the tzchoik l'mayla. Similar to the idea of choshech to light, but here it's more hiskalolus versus yeah. So that's tzchoik v'tayni the yitzchak nimshach es rivka bitter nefesh habahamis. Va'azu b'chinas ravka shel shalosh shalosh oy shel dalet 3 or 4. V'hainu hiskalolus hamidos. The midos are then unified. V'hainu b'chinas ava rabba midos hanimshachim mahakeser. That's when the midos are elevated back to their source in keser. They das elyon behem rabba. V'skala lezu zehu b'chinas shalom. That's the shalom. V'zehu v'shafti b'shalom. So he's saying like this. Either shalom means peace by taking that which is dark and making it bottled to the Eibishter, making peace between high and low. Or shalom means taking the fragmented emotions and causing a shalom. But in order to get al beis avi to my father's house, which is what? In order to get back to my father's house, which is what? Yitzchak, to the laughter, it's either through, the b'shalom means taking the lowly things in this world and converting it with bittul to the Eibishter. Or working more on our midos, that the midos that are fragmented and separated should be all harmonized and unified together. V'shafti b'shalom will bring me to v'hine Yitzchak mitzachek es Rivka, together. V'zau gam kein inyan malachei hashalom. This is also the idea of malachei hashalom. Ki hine lamata, because below, bibiyah, in bria yitzir and asiya, Michael and Gavriel are enemies. They're opposites. Sar shal mayim, sar shal esh. Michael is the sar, the minister of water, and Gavriel is the minister of fire. Hareyem beis afeichem. They're opposites. And they themselves don't have the ability to get along with each other. The reason why Michael and Gavriel get along with each other is because Hashem stuns them with his infinite power and they become nullified to God, and that's how they can get along with each other. It's like 2 ministers that are always opposite. They always have total opposites from each other, but when they come before the king, what happens? Because they're so scared of the king, they get nullified from their own opinions and their own egos, and they work together. Which means that they, on their own, don't have it within themselves to be together. That's the ordinary malachim. They come from the midos. Aleichem hem nagdiim, they're opposites. Asher oiser shalom b'neim, till Hashem makes peace amongst them. Ki amidos mitzad atzmam, because the emotions on their own, hem anofim mispardim, are branches that branch off to opposite directions. Ochin malachei hashalom, the malachei hashalom, the angels of peace, hainu shehem tamid b'bchinas shalom. It's not a shalom that's imposed upon them. They are essentially b'bchinas shalom. V'skalalus zeu lefi shehem abba ve'ima. That's because they are from Chachma and Bina. Shesham gilui oirein soif. These are midas that are directly pulled from Chachma and Bina, from lichatchila. They're in that state. So over there's the gilui of the oirein soif. V'nikra terrain rein, and therefore Chachma and Bina, even though they're also opposites. Chachma and Bina are opposites. Chachma tends to be what? Cold and a point. Bina is hot and detail oriented and so on and so forth. Chachma is ayin and Bina is yesh, and yet they always together. Why? Because they're totally bottled to the oirein. So if they're called best friends. And it says over there, sheyesh malachim haneladim ezivig neshikin dezun. There are malachim that come from the kiss. Again, malachim in general are always from the kiss zivug, but from a lower zivug of zuchra v'nukva. V'yesh malachim el yoinim yoiser. There is higher malachim shenoldim ezivig neshikin da abba v'ima, and those are those malachim. V'nei loshev lebchinas Yitzchak who came dafka al yedei b'chinas shalom. To return to Yitzchak is through the peace. Canal be Inyan Rivka, which is a skalalos, we need to achieve this level of harmony. Since it's Friday night and we want to come completely home to the pleasure, we want to completely be elevated into the meal. What's the meal? It's Yitzchak's meal. It's the meal of Tainug, of Oinege Elyon. We ask the Malachim, bestow upon us this Shalom. Malachei HaShalom. She'yeh b'chinas eskalalus hamidos, that the midos should all be harmonized. Sheshar sham medas elyon hamezavig abba ve'ima. It's the shirish is from the sham shirish malachim anal. That's where these malachim come from. Gam zeu sha'imrim shalom aleichem. And what do we say? Where do these malachim come from? Malachei hashalom. We say mi melech malchei hamalachim. These malachim are coming from Chachma and Bina. What is the meaning of mi melech malchei hamalachim? Simply means they're malachim of God, from the king. To hear this gewaldige Inyan, we have three levels over here: malachim, malchei, and melech. He's the melech over malchei and over malach. So what does that mean? Malachim are the 7 emotions, the 6 emotions, and malchus. They're all called malachim. They're all kings. Malchei is 2, is Chachma and Bina. Melech is Keser. Mimelech Malchei Amlachim is Keser, which is the king over Malchei, which is king over Malach. Okay. These Malachim are just from Chachma and Bina. Why do we attribute it to Keser Mimelech Malchim? And the answer is Chachma and Bina be'etzem are opposites. Chachma is Ayin and Bina is Yesh. For Chachma and Bina to be together, it's because it's Meir in it from Keser, where Keser there's no Ischalkus at all. And to Keser, the Ayin of Chachma and the Yesh of Bina are absolutely Kula Kamei Kalachshiv. They're all nothing before him. And therefore it's the ultimate harmonizer of Ayin and Yesh and unifies it all together. Mimelech Malchei Amlachim Shehu Pchinas Keser. Shenikra Melech Shashalom Shaloi. It's the ultimate. Before we said Bina is called Melech Shashalom Shaloi. Now he says it's Keser because we know that Bina receives its galus of Keser is actually in Bina. I mashkazo apasik yiriyah shloim. If I mashkazo oid apasik shirashinim ashal shloim yeshakeni. Sham shacham epchinezu dafka yedei neshikin v'zeh yuven oid inyan barcheini l'shalom. Bench us in peace. Malachei hashalom. Malachim of peace. Shehamalachi abba ve'ima. Shemepchines neshikin that come from the kiss. V'zeh seder inyan. And this is the order. Tchila oimrim shalom aleichem malachei ashares. Who are these malachim? Those are the weekday malachim. Not the Shabbos malachim that are coming here to give us the experience of Shabbos. These are the malachim that we're now giving them a commission on this that they helped us during the week. And they're called malachei hashares. They're not Malachei Hasholim because they don't come from that very supernal Chachma and Bina state. They come just like they're part of the Alma de Pruda, they're part of the separated world, but they help us bring bittul to the Nefesh HaBahamas. So they're called Malachei Asharis. Sheshar Sham Mezuchri V'Nukva. They're from the lower Malach. Malachei, but then we say right away, we greet both Malachim. We say Malachei Asharis, and these are the weekday Malachim. And then we say Malachei Elyon. Who is Elyon? The higher Malachim. Sheshar Shama Abba Ve'ima, which are also therefore referred to as Malachei Hashalim in the next stanza. Then we send away the Malachei Asharis because they're done. They're the weekday Malachim. We're left only with the Malachei Elyon, and who are they? They are the Malachei Hashalim. And that's why the next few stanzas are only referring. And we're asking them for a bracha for Shabbos. We're saying, Bayachem l'shalom, Barchuni l'shalom, bless us that we should be able to reach this ultimate level of peace. V'ashalom nimshach, and from who is it coming from? Who is this shalom coming from? Why? How can they be so at peace, even though they're opposite? How can they be so at peace? The answer is because they come melech malchei amlochem, because they come from Keser. Nimshach mi melech malchei amlochem eine b'chinas Keser. Shal yidei zeh nase yichud abba ve'ima. This is what allows there should be such a yichud of father and mother, kenoida as it is now. Achakach oimer, afterwards we say bayachem l'shalom malachei hashalom. What do you mean bayachem? Because b'Shabbos gilui chachma d'atzilus. Here's the thing. During the week, we're in Bria, Yetzirah, and Asiya. We're in the three lower worlds. So in Bria, there's only a gilui of Bina. We know Bina shines in Bria, the 6 emotions shine in Yetzirah, and Malchus is in Asiya. Seeing that? So there's no gilui of chachma. But Shabbos comes, Vayechal Elokim, and the world's Aliyah Sa'olam were elevated into Atzilus. So we're ready to receive the real bittul light, the bittul of. That's why Shabbos is called Shabbos Kodesh. Kedusha is in Chachma. So in Shabbos we achieve ultimate bittul. That's why you're not allowed to do any malacha on Shabbos, because you're not allowed to, in front of God, you're not allowed to do anything of your own. In front of the king, you have to pay attention to the king. You can't do any private things. Shabbos is the Izgalus Koyach Ma total bittul. Who is going to bring it to us? You need shluchim. Malachim are shluchim. Shluchim of who? Since they come, they're called Malachei Hashalom. They're the ones that are produced from the yichud of Chachma and Bina, which means that even though there is Bina, there's already a context of a world, there is already a substance, it's still retaining the Giloy of Chachma, and they bring, Bayachem l'shalom, they bring the Hizgalus of Ma, of Chachma, into the Neshamas. So we tell them, Bayachem l'shalom, come to us. Begiloy Chachma datzilus, v'al kein, Boim Malachei Hashalom Sheshar Sham Misham. They come from there. Ubina Nikra Melech Shashalom Shaloi. Bina is called Melech Shashalom Shaloi. Why? Because he's always unified with Chachma. Lefi Shabam Melubish Yesoid Abba. Because the Yesoid of Abba is always Melubish in Bina. V'hu Mekabel Memoyach Stima V'zami Melech. And ultimately, Yesoid Abba receives from Keser. So it's Melech Shashalom Shaloi. So. And achakach oimrim. So first bayachem, first bring that light. Then we say barchuni, bless us with that. Sheyumshich b'chinezu gam ba'adam, not just in the atmosphere. Barchuni l'shalom, give us that blessing. The Inyan shalom zeh mavu b'makam achar apol tzvichoysi me'itcham. Yeah, whatever that means. V'nei b'Shabbos. Oh, but the question is, how do we have? How can we even relate if most neshamas, besides the big neshamas of tzaddikim, regular neshamas only come from the yichud of zuchra v'nukva, not from the lower yichud of zah and malchus, and not from the higher yichud of chachma and bina, right? If that's the case, how can we receive such if it's not shaykh to us? As I said before, can the Eskimo eat the burrito? It's not shaykh to them. The answer is because on Shabbos, because really. It says like this, even the neshamas that are from Zuchra v'Nukva, their shoresh is really always from Chachma and Bina. All neshamas are rooted in Chachma. Because we're all called Banim Atam Lashem Elokeichem. We're all called children, and a child comes from the brain of the father. So we all come from the level of Chachma. Then how come we say that there are some neshamas that are like, these very, very high neshamas that can float through all the worlds and others? The question is, how processed are we? Those neshamas that remain in that state are very few neshamas. Most neshamas descend and then later become processed in Ze'er Anpin and in Nukva, and they become more malchustig neshamas, creation-like neshamas and the like. But everybody has a chelik in the higher bittul of Chacham. And that's the idea of neshama yasera. Neshama yasera means that your soul opens up to a much deeper place. So you get a far greater spiritual capacity. And then on Shabbos, you really are mushrash. You're really rooted in the zivug of Chacham and Bina, and therefore you can receive such a level of bittul. Not higher bittul, but who is the one that brings it to you? It's the malachim that help us. What the malachim really are doing is they're helping us connect to our neshama yasera. Neshama yasera means this higher level, as he says. It also comes from Abba ve'ima. Shezeh Inyan Yisroel alu b'machshava. This is the idea that the Jewish people come from machshava. And malachim, these malachim also come from machshava, but we come from a higher place in that machshava. That's why neshamas are called achim lamakom. In davening we say laman achai v'rei. So it says that Yidden are called brothers to God. Ta'kadosh Baruch Hu. Why? Here there's gavaldic mystical concept. HaKadosh Baruch Hu are the 6 emotions. The Ze'er Anpin is called HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The Ze'er Anpin is a child. Where do the midos come from? From Abba and Ima, from Chacham and Bina. If the neshamas also come from Chacham and Bina, so we're siblings. On that level of neshama yasera, the level of neshama yasera of Shabbos, we're siblings to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. On the level of the regular weekday neshama, the level, we're children from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But from the level of neshama yasera, when we come from, that means that we're directly deriving from Chacham and Bina, so we're just like HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So here's little baby brothers. He's the big HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and we're small little siblings. But we're still siblings. And that's the idea. And it says the are neshamas that are even in the weekday, they're called Achim, brothers. But these are very high neshamas. But most neshamas are only Shem Achim Lezun, they're called brothers and sisters to the Shechina, to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. V'zeu mema, v'zeu Melech Malchei HaMelachim. Ki meir behem ha'ores ha'keser. Shemeir b'chachma. It's shining in the Jewish people, the radiance of keser that is in chachma. V'zeu Allah b'machshava, rising in machshava. B'chinas ha'chachma ma shedavka b'keser. That's, machshava is chachma. Chashav ma, chachma. But in the chachma, it's Olu, where chachma is connecting to keser. Shezeu b'chinas ha'alyoyna sheb'machshava, the highest level of machshava. Once this neshama yasera is revealed in us, it's higher than the Malachi Hashalom. Why? Because in every level that exists, neshamas are higher than malachim. So it's true, when in our regular level of neshama, these malachim are from a higher level. But once through their hashpah to us, it's megala, our shoresh, then we're really higher than them. And let me explain that. In what sense, if we're both coming from machshava, in what sense are we higher than them? And the answer is like this. And the Maggid says, teaching of the Mizritcha Maggid. A person's thoughts are part of him. Whatever you're thinking, your thoughts are you. They're not outside of you, like speech. Speech is outside. These malachim are very, very, very one with God. Very deep. But in a person, when a person is thinking, there's a huge difference when a person is thinking about stuff or he's thinking about his children. He's thinking about his children. You think about anything, whatever it is that you're thinking about creation. So even though there is between something you created, but there is the object and there is the thought that's still in you of that object. But since it's about something outside, it's possible that you'll forget that thought. The thought is like, it's you, but it's like scribbling that's taking place in your consciousness. It's written, so it's something other than you that's imprinted on you. It's possible that you forget it. But your children, when you think about your children, these thoughts are much deeper because they're carvings in you. Because your children are not in existence out, but not you. They are you. Even when they're born, they're you. So when you think about them, these are like oisias hachakika, like engraved letters, not written letters. Or like when the difference between a person thinking about things, it's also him, or when a person thinks about something that's very, very important to him, to his very life. And that thought is so much deeper and so much more inner. So that's the difference. Malachim, these malachim, are still on the level of thought. They were never created to be outside of God. But it's Hashem thinking about the world. Because malachim be'etzem are outsiders. Neshamas are him, they're his children. So therefore, Yidden is like, it's engraved. So once it's revealed our shirish in Chachma and Bina, we stand much higher than the malachim who brought us to that shirish. That's why we turn around now and give them the bracha. Barchuni l'shalom, and now tzeischem l'shalom. What's the tzeischem l'shalom? It's the blessing to them. Because what are we doing? Giving them a bracha. Tzeischem l'shalom, go in peace. Kenoida, the zivug neshamis anal sharshe gavoyim is zivug neshikin. Its root is higher than the zivug of neshikin, the malach. L'chein achar shamalachei ha-shalom mevorchem ha-neshamis. After the malachei ha-shalom blessed the neshamis, harei mamshichim lehem misharsham hanai leyoser. We draw to them from our shorish that's higher than them. Then the malachim receive from the neshamas. Even these higher malachim, not only the lower malachim that we greeted by Shalom Aleichem, the malachei ashares, but even the higher malachim, the malachei ashalom, they also. Ki kol hamevarech mizbarech. Since they blessed us, they get blessed. This is the tzeischem l'shalom. What do we say afterwards? Ki malachav yitzav alach l'shmarcha b'chol derechecha. V'yoisa adam lamata tzarich shmira. Because when we're still down here in bodies, we always need shmira. We need protection. V'nelchein b'mincha d'Shabbos oimrim gamkein menucha shalom hashkeit. V'hini hashkeit hu gavoya yoisa mebchina shalom. K'mo shekasa b'geres hakodesh ha'pasuk avodas tzedakah hashkeit. Ki shalom zeh b'chinas yisoid abba v'hashkeit zeh b'chinas moyach stimo d'shaket v'shachich v'zehu shemesh b'shabbos tzedakah la'aniyim sha'idei tzedakah la'aniyim b'chol yemei hamayis ha'idei zenimshach gilui shemesh b'shabbos v'hu b'chinas v'avodas tzedakah hashkeit shenimshach gilui zeh b'shabbos k'mo shekasav menucha shalom v'hashkeit ki b'shabbos u'b'chinas eshapchach ha'shuchel nerahura v'ayin b'geres ha'kodesh b'dibur anal. I don't know what he's talking about. He's referring to a piece of Tanya in the back, which talks about this idea of shalom and hashkeit. I don't remember its relationship to here, and I didn't get a chance to look that up. So whoever learns the whole mimer is not going to be lazy and is going to read that too and figure out the end. Be'ezus Hashem. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Ashalom Who would think that there's so much here in that Shalom Aleichem? And it's a back and forth and a back and forth and higher and higher. How to do what? How to do what? Scan them? During the week, we don't busy with the angels. Shabbos, we get busy with them. That's what it says here. They help us during the week that we learned. They assist us. We're better off asking, we pray to God. We don't pray to the angels. But we bless them a little bit every Friday night because we want to keep on their good side, right? So they must also have an aliyah even higher. Yeah. Shalom. All right. That was that. Okay. Surprised we finished. I was going to quit before. And the only reason I stayed because I saw that you're interested in the rest.